Chapter 673. Under the watchful eyes of Kun Wu and Ji Ku, Ji Tianxing stepped into the portal on the sky-fleeing tower. Swoosh! A dazzling white light flashed and swallowed his figure. In the next moment, he crossed 100,000 miles and returned to the secret chamber in the Star Moon Manor. The secret chamber was as dark as ever, flickering with colorful spiritual light. There were also several elite guards guarding it. When the guards saw Ji Tianxing, they hurriedly bowed to greet him. One of them led him out of the secret chamber, through many corridors and palaces, and arrived at the gate of the Star Moon Manor. Ji Tianxing left the Star Moon Manor and returned to Zhongzhou City as fast as lightning. 2 hours later, he returned to the Tianxing Palace in the Monarch Mansion. He sat on the throne in the main hall and listened to the guard captain report to him. After listening, he found out that Yen was still in seclusion in the secret chamber to heal her injuries. Yun Yao had come to the Tianxing Palace once before and left when she learned that he was not in the palace. Ji Tianxing waved his hand to signal the guard captain to leave. Then, he got up and left the main hall, flying to Yun Yao Palace. An hour later, he entered Yun Yao Palace and saw Yun Yao meditating and cultivating. Yun Yao was relieved to see that he had returned safe and sound. She quickly led him into the secret chamber to talk. After the two of them entered the secret chamber and sat down, Yun Yao asked in a concerned tone, "Tianxing, where have you been these days? You haven't done anything to the Duanmu family's herb garden, have you?" Ji Tianxing nodded and asked with some doubt, "I went to the Demon Imperial Court these days and haven't started my operation yet." Yao, what happened? Did the situation in the Duanmu family's herb garden change? Yun Yao frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, "I know that you are going to start your operation soon, so I sent several commanders of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion to carefully investigate the situation in the herb garden. In the past 2 to 3 years, the Duanmu family's protection of the herb garden has become more and more strict. Other than the strange ancient beasts guarding the herb garden, the number of herb garden guards had also more than doubled. Besides, the Duanmu clan has a few extra guards. They are all level 5 or 6 sky origin stage cultivators." Ji Tianxing frowned slightly as a cold light flashed in his eyes. The defensive power of the herb garden had doubled, doubling the difficulty of his movements. It was indeed a troublesome matter. Fortunately, Yun Yao had sent a spy to investigate in advance. Otherwise, he would most likely be at a disadvantage if he acted rashly. At this moment, Yun Yao asked again, "By the way, Tianxing, why are you going to the Demon Imperial Court?" "I asked Senior Beast King, and he said that the demon race's magic treasure, Ice Dragon Hammer, can restrain the Firebird of Heavenly Wind." Ji Tianxing explained the cause of the matter from beginning to end. After he finished speaking, Yun Yao revealed an extremely shocked expression and asked in disbelief, "Junior sister Ji Ku is actually the daughter of the Heavenly Net Demon Emperor and the Spirit Star Demon Empress? This was too inconceivable. I didn't expect her background to be so bizarre." Ji Tianxing nodded and said seriously, "Kuku's matter has been settled. I believe she will be able to get rid of the danger soon and improve her strength. I have already borrowed the Ice Dragon Hammer. Next, I have to act as soon as possible." Yun Yao nodded slightly in agreement and said in a deep voice, "Tianxing, according to the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's investigation, the Duanmu clan's internal strife is getting more and more intense. The Shadow Palace's matter has not been settled yet. A few other forces are also taking advantage of the situation to add insult to injury. Duanmu Huang has been having a headache recently. However, the second elder and the third elder of the Duanmu clan have already started to act. They have sent out a large number of powerful cultivators to secretly investigate your whereabouts. They may assassinate you at any time." Hearing this, Ji Tianxing's lips curled into a cold smile. Since that is the case, I have to act faster. Let's see if they still have the energy to assassinate me after I destroy the Duanmu clan's herb garden." Yun Yao took out a scroll from her interspatial ring and solemnly handed it to him. Tianxing, this is the map of the herb garden drawn by the Hidden Cloud Pavilion's commanders recently. If you want to act faster, then get ready as soon as possible. I'll accompany you. Without waiting for her to finish, Ji Tianxing shook his head and refused. He sternly said, Yao Yao, I can only act alone. You can't come with me. This matter is of great importance and I can't involve you. Otherwise, the Yun clan will be involved. At that time, my cooperation with your father will be affected and the imperial court will definitely intervene. I'm afraid there will be more unforeseen events. Yun Yao looked worried. She held his wrist and said in a concerned tone, But it's more dangerous for you to act alone. If something happens, Ji Tianxing held her slender hand and comforted her gently. Yao Yao, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. After some persuasion, Yun Yao agreed to not participate in the operation and stay in the emperor residence to wait for news. However, she was still worried and solemnly warned Ji Tianxing. An hour later, the two of them agreed on the operation plan. After everything was ready, Ji Tianxing left Yun Yao Palace. It was noon and the sun was shining brightly in the sky. Ji Tianxing didn't return to Tianxing Palace. Instead, he left the emperor residence at lightning speed and rushed to the mango forest in the southeast of Central State. Now that he had the ice dragon hammer, he couldn't wait to destroy the Duanmu clan's herb garden. To be safe, he acted alone with only the little black dragon and Qian Yu by his side. After flying for more than 20 hours, he finally entered the depths of the mango forest on the evening of the second day and arrived near a herb garden. He hid in the clouds in the sky and looked down at the situation below. He was in the depths of the mango forest, where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was the densest and most abundant. It was more than 1,000 miles away from Azure Wood City. All around him was a boundless dark green forest that covered the undulating mountain ranges. 30 miles in front of Ji Tianxing, there was a basin surrounded by mountains that had a radius of 100 miles. The water and earth in that basin nourished spiritual energy and was extremely rich in the aura of green wood. It was the most suitable place for growing and cultivating medicinal herbs. There was no doubt that the Duanmu clan had turned that basin into a herb garden and cultivated an endless amount of spiritual herbs. Looking down from the sky, Ji Tianxing could clearly see that there was a huge 5-colored wall of light above the basin that protected the entire herb garden. In the herb garden, countless square herb gardens were neatly arranged. They were filled with lush spiritual herbs that emitted a light green aura of wood. There were also several ancient and majestic palaces at the entrance to the herb garden. These were the residences of the guards and herbalists, as well as the storehouses where the herbs were stored. Teams of black-armored guards could be seen faintly in and around the herb garden. They were patrolling the area with swords and armors. Ji Tianxing observed silently and quickly came up with a plan in his heart. The Duanmu clan has built a total of 4 herb gardens in the mango forest. They are called the 100 Herb Garden, the Spirit Herb Garden, the Azure Wood Garden, and the Longevity Garden. The 4 herb gardens are scattered around Azure Wood City and are separated by over 1,000 miles. I'll start with the 100 Herb Garden. Even if the Duanmu clan hears the news and comes to help, it will take at least several hours. Brothers, I'm very sorry. I've been troubled by mundane affairs lately and have been under great pressure. Chapter 674. Ji Tianxing had seen the map Yun Yao gave him long ago, so he knew the layout of the medicine garden like the back of his hand. When night descended, the 100-flower garden fell into silence and darkness both inside and outside. Only the few palaces at the entrance of the 100-flower garden faintly revealed a bit of light. Ji Tianxing was like a ghost that streaked across the night sky and silently descended into the mountain forest at the side of the 100-flower garden. He held his breath and concentrated as he hid in the forest, then secretly used his spiritual sense to observe for a moment. After confirming that there was no one nearby, he started to break open the 100-Flower Garden's defensive formation. Amongst the Duanmu clan's 4 medicine gardens, the Longevity Garden's medicinal herbs were the most precious, and its defense was the tightest as well. The Longevity Garden had a sole-rank defensive formation set up, and it was even guarded by the Firestorm bird. The defensive strength of this 100-Flower Garden was comparatively weaker. It only had a high-grade Heaven Origin grade defensive formation, 200 guards, and 4 guard commanders. Ji Tianqing silently moved through the forest, and after observing for an hour, he figured out the 100-Flower Garden's defensive formation. This was a high-grade Heaven Origin grade defensive formation that utilized the 9 Cauldrons universe, Azurewood Myriad Spirit, and Cloud Mist concealment. Not only did this defensive formation possess a formidable defensive strength, it was also able to gather the Azurewood spirit energy within 1,000 miles to irrigate the spirit herbs and flowers within the garden. With Ji Tianqing's attainments in the formation Dao, breaking open this high-grade Heaven Origin grade defensive formation wasn't difficult. He borrowed the strength of the mountain and river seal, and only used an hour to break open a concealed gap in the defensive formation. However, just as he was about to pass through the gap and enter the formation, he suddenly stopped moving. His spiritual sense detected that in the mountain forest 400 meters to his left, there was a group of guards in black armor that were rushing towards his hiding place. That group of guards wasn't patrolling normally, and their speed was extremely swift and their aura was fierce and icy cold. Obviously, they'd noticed the unusual situation. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the blink of an eye, 10 guards rushed to the scene like a bolt of lightning and stopped in the forest 100 meters away from Ji Tianqing. The strength of this group of guards had all attained the 8th and 9th level of the Origin Core stage, and their entire bodies emitted an icy cold and murderous aura. Obviously, they were elite soldiers. Their eyes were as sharp as an eagle's as they looked down and sized up their surroundings. They also released their spiritual senses to explore the surrounding situation. The leader of the guards waved his hand and ordered in a deep voice, "Just now, there were array formation energy fluctuations here. Everyone, spread out and search carefully. We must find out the reason." "Understood," the other 9 guards shouted in unison. Then, they spread out and released their spiritual senses to search. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned, and his eyes became gloomy. He hid in the dark forest, not moving at all, not revealing the slightest bit of true essence fluctuation. Even so, there were still 2 guards walking towards his hiding place. No matter how well Ji Tianqing hid, when the 2 guards got close, they would still discover him and find a gap in the defensive formation. Thus, Ji Tianqing made up his mind. A cold light flashed in his eyes. "Since you're courting death, then don't blame me for going on a killing spree." He silently muttered in his heart, then his figure flashed and floated out. He transformed into a black shadow that was like a ghost as he silently tore through the night sky and instantly arrived behind a guard. Then he stretched out his hand like a bolt of lightning to grab towards the guard's throat. That guard had just noticed something was wrong and hadn't even reacted when his throat was grabbed by a large hand. Crack! An imperceptible sound of bones shattering sounded out. This guard's throat was instantly crushed, and dark red blood flowed out from his mouth as he died on the spot. Ji Tianqing threw the guard's corpse on the ground, then swiftly charged towards another guard like a phantom. That guard was staring at the ground with a fierce gaze, searching for clues. He still didn't know what had happened. He only felt his throat tighten, then his vision went black and he fell into eternal darkness. After Ji Tianqing easily killed 2 guards, his figure flashed and vanished, then he continued to assassinate the other few guards. In the next 100 breaths of time, one after another black-armored guards were attacked and quietly assassinated by Ji Tianqing. After 100 breaths of time, 7 out of 10 guards had been killed. The last 3 guards finally realized that something was wrong and let out a panicked and angry roar. The captain of the guards found the corpse in the forest and knew that they had been attacked. He immediately took out a signal arrow and was about to send a signal to inform the captain of the guards in the herb garden. Ji Tianxing didn't care about hiding his aura anymore. He rushed towards the captain of the guards as fast as a stream of light. He fiercely slapped the captain away, smashing the signal arrow into pieces. The captain of the guards was sent flying backwards while vomiting blood. His chest was deeply caved in, and his heart and internal organs had been shattered. He died on the spot. The other 2 guards saw the captain of the guards being killed with a single palm strike, and they were scared out of their wits. They turned around and fled, but they didn't forget to scream in horror. Ji Tianxing rushed up with a cold expression and killed one of the guards with a single palm strike. He then released a golden sword light and killed another guard from 100 meters away. The 10 guards were all killed, but it also made a lot of noise and woke up the guards in the herb garden. Suddenly, more than a dozen dazzling true essence lights lit up in the herb garden, and there was a burst of shouting. Ji Tianxing saw that the guards in the herb garden were alarmed, so he didn't delay any longer and didn't hide his aura. He passed through the gap in the array as fast as the wind and got into the herb garden. He rushed to the center of the herb garden as fast as lightning. The guards in the herb garden immediately rushed over like a swarm of bees, waving their sabers and swords as they shouted to kill. Someone broke into the herb garden. Stop him! Kill him! Those who break into the herb garden will be killed without mercy. When Ji Tianxing flew to the center of the herb garden, more than 30 guards also rushed over and surrounded him. Moreover, there were even more guards who were alerted from all directions and were rushing over as fast as lightning. Ji Tianxing stood in the night sky and looked down at the guards in the herb garden on the ground below. His eyes became cold and indifferent. There was a flash in his left palm, and the black dragon's sword appeared out of thin air. Qian Yu also flew out of the 100 treasures brocade pouch, flapping his wings and floating in the air. Ji Tianxing said in a low voice, "Qian Yu, do your best to destroy the herb garden. I will take care of these guards." "No problem, I am the best at destroying things." Qian Yu quickly agreed and released a dazzling icy blue brilliance. It condensed into thousands of ice blades and frost swords and poured down on the herb garden below. The guards on the ground were shocked and quickly counterattacked, blocking the cold light from the blades and swords that fell from the sky. They wanted to protect the herb garden. However, Ji Tianxing had already pulled out the black dragon sword and fiercely slashed at the ground. Dragon soars from the 9th heaven. A 30-meter-long ice dragon appeared out of thin air, and with an invincible power, it slashed at the ground below. Boom! In a deafening sound, more than a dozen guards who couldn't dodge in time were killed by the ice dragon. Chapter 675. The ground was shaking as cracks appeared all over the ground. The 20 or so guards who were lucky enough to survive were scared out of their wits as they let out terrified screams. A few patches of the herb garden were destroyed on the spot. The flowers and herbs that grew there were also turned into dregs by the violent qi. Qian Yu's swords and blades carried with them a bone-chilling coldness as they landed on the ground within a kilometer radius. Instantly, the ground within a kilometer radius turned into frozen soil. The surviving flowers and herbs were also frozen to death on the spot. Once the 100 flowers spirit herbs in the herb garden matured and were sold in the market, they could fetch at least 20 to 30,000 spirit stones. If the Duanmu clan made them into dawn, their value would be multiplied by a few times, reaching at least 100,000 spiritual stones. Ji Tianxing's interspatial ring contained all kinds of spiritual stones, dawn, and gems. They were only worth 40,000 to 50,000 spiritual stones. He destroyed tens of thousands of spiritual stones worth of herbs in one move, but he did not feel the slightest bit of heartache. Instead, he was even more excited. After all, those herbs belonged to the Duanmu clan. Moreover, killing and wantonly destruction would make people excited and restless. Ji Tianxing did not hesitate to swing his sword again. A blinding ray of light shot out and slashed at the fleeing guards. Water split. His entire body was filled with fighting spirit as he violently slashed out a giant ray of light that was hundreds of meters long. Instantly, the dark night sky was lit up. Sword chi filled the entire herb garden and created a violent hurricane. Boom! Following a loud explosion, a few more guards who could not escape in time were killed by the giant sword. A huge ravine that was thousands of meters long appeared on the ground, like an abyss. Dense cracks appeared on both sides of the gully. Dozens of patches of the herb garden were affected and turned into ruins. The violent shock wave swept across and crushed all the flowers and herbs on the ground into pieces, destroying them on the spot. Ji Tianxing let go of the black dragon sword and allowed it to transform back into its original form as it destroyed the herb garden with Qianyu. Roar! The little black dragon let out a high-pitched dragon roar and immediately transformed into a 30-meter-long black dragon that danced in the sky. It and Qianyu worked together to cast a spell and gathered all the spiritual qi in the herb garden to form a black cloud that covered the sky. Moving clouds and summoning rain, ice blade and frost sword. Within the rolling dark clouds, tens of thousands of icy blue water droplets condensed, transforming into countless ice blades and frost swords that poured down like a torrential downpour. Instantly, the ground was riddled with holes by the ice blades and frost swords. Numerous craters and cracks appeared. Millions of spiritual herbs and flowers were minced into pieces by the ice blades and frost swords. They were frozen into powder and scattered in the ruins. The little black dragon and Qianyu were having a great time playing, and they were even using their arts to slowly move the dark clouds in the night sky. Wherever the dark clouds passed by, frost and swords would rain down, destroying every inch of land. Ji Tianxing didn't stop either. Standing in the night sky, he waved his palms and used the secret technique of the Tianxing 5 extremes. Large balls of earthy yellow light surged in his palms. He was communicating with the heavens and earth, controlling the earth elemental power within 100 miles. As he used the secret technique, the night sky around him constantly gathered dark yellow light of spirit chi. After 100 breaths of time, with him as the center, the night sky for 10 miles around him had become a dusky yellow zone. Finally, Ji Tianxing had accumulated the earth elemental power to the limit, reaching the peak of his control. With a roar like a great bell, he fiercely waved his palms and slammed them into the earth beneath his feet. Yellow sky, thick earth, I grasp the universe. Heaven overturning earth, earth turns to stone. At that moment, the dusky yellow light in a 10-mile radius crashed into the earth like a mountain peak. Rumble! A thunderous boom that shook the highest heavens exploded, fiercely reverberating through the herb garden. The sound waves were as vigorous as thunder, causing the medicinal garden's defensive array to shake incessantly. As for the earth beneath his feet, it underwent a heaven-shaking transformation that left one flabbergasted. The dark brown earth began to ripple like the surface of the sea. The herb garden on the ground completely collapsed, and the earth mixed with hundreds of flowers and herbs sank into the ground. The earth from the ground surged up, covering everything on the ground. The earth converged into a dark brown wave of earth, crazily tumbling and rolling. With the earth beneath his feet as the center, it spread out in all directions. In a short 100 breaths of time, the earth for dozens of miles had been overturned. Thousands of herb gardens that cultivated herbs had been completely destroyed. Hundreds of millions of spirit flowers and herbs had been crushed into dregs, mixed with the earth, and buried deep underground. Then, the fertile earth condensed into a black stone that covered dozens of miles of land. Half an incense stick of time ago, the area of 50 to 60 miles had been a colorful and fragrant herb garden with hundreds of flowers in full bloom. But now, this area had become uneven, covered with cold black stones and cracks. It was like a broken desert, incomparably desolate, without a single blade of grass growing. The herb garden guards that had rushed over from all directions witnessed this scene with their own eyes. They were all shocked speechless. At this moment, in the night sky at the entrance of the herb garden, several beams of true essence light shot out like a stream of light. Within those beams of light, there was a figure of a powerful cultivator, emitting an overwhelming aura and murderous intent. They were extremely fast. After a short while, they had rushed to the center of the herb garden and surrounded Ji Tianxing. There were 4 powerful cultivators in total. All of them were at the 5th or 6th level of Sky Origin stage, wearing the same cyan robe. Without a doubt, these 4 powerful cultivators were the 4 leaders of the herb garden guards. They scattered in 4 directions, surrounding Ji Tianxing in the middle, keeping a distance of 1,000 meters from him. When they saw the changes on the ground, and saw that half of the herb garden had been destroyed, they were furious and roared in anger. "How dare you! How dare you destroy the herb garden? Bastard, no matter who you are, you will die a horrible death tonight. You damned little bastard, your death is not to be regretted. I will cut you into 1,000 pieces and put you to death." As the 4 leaders roared in anger, they drew out their swords and sabers. Their murderous intent shot up to the sky. Ji Tianxing was surrounded, but he was fearless. There was a flash of chilling light in his eyes. "All the dogs of the Duanmu clan deserve to die," he shouted in a low voice. Immediately, he performed his ultimate sword skill and initiated an attack. Metal Slash. He activated all of his power and released a giant golden sword that was 100 meters long. He slashed at the leader of the eastern group of guards. The golden sword flew across the sky and shone brightly, lighting up an area of 10 miles. The incomparably violent sword chi and the sword intent that could destroy the world caused the expressions of the 4 commanders to turn solemn. Deep fear appeared in their eyes. The leader of the eastern group of guards quickly stepped back and formed a shield with all his might, trying to block the attack of the golden sword. However, the metal slash had locked onto his aura. After chasing him for 2,000 meters, it still hit him. Boom. Chapter 676. The loud sound was still echoing in the night sky. The body parts and blood of the guard commander were still falling in the night sky. It was a ghastly scene under the golden light. Boom! The giant golden sword slashed down on the ground, creating a 10-mile-long trench on the ground that was covered with black stones. The ground within dozens of miles was shaking violently. The other 3 commanders saw their comrade being killed by Ji Tianxing with one strike. They were so shocked that their eyes were wide open. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that a young man in a white robe at the 4th level of Sky Origin stage could kill a guard commander at the 5th level of Sky Origin stage with one strike. That was so horrifying. However, the 3 of them were only stunned for a moment before they came back to their senses. They hurriedly swung their swords at Ji Tianxing and took the chance to surround him. "Kill him! Kill him! Avenge Commander Li! We have to kill him tonight. Otherwise, how can we explain to the main house?" The herb garden was destroyed, and one of the commanders was killed. It was a great loss. Only by fighting a bloody battle and killing Ji Tianxing on the spot could the 3 commanders atone for their crimes. Otherwise, the Duanmu clan would punish them and they would be executed. Sword of Pride Sovereign. Falling Moon Sword. Sky-breaking sword. The 3 commanders roared with murderous intent. They activated all their martial arts and waved their swords, creating terrifying sword lights. Ji Tianxing didn't panic in the face of the 3 people's attack. He was still calm and composed. He turned his head to look at the commander in the west. A golden eye suddenly appeared on his forehead. It was his 3rd eye, the Thunder Spiritual Eye. Thunder! Ji Tianxing let out a low roar as he opened his lightning spiritual eyes. Violent lightning energy was released from his azure pupils. The destructive thunder power condensed into a 20-meter-long blue light beam that was as thick as a bucket. It fiercely shot toward the commander in the west. Kaboom! The pillar of lightning tore through the night sky, bringing with it an overwhelming amount of lightning serpents that drowned out the commander. He didn't have time to run or dodge. He could only use his martial arts to form a shield to block the light beam. However, Ji Tianxing used up all the thunder power stored in his thunder spiritual eye at once. How terrifying was that thunder power! The commander's Zhen Yuan shield was instantly shattered, and his body turned into black charcoal, collapsing and exploding. The power of the light beam didn't decrease. It fiercely hit the ground again. Following an earth-shattering rumble, a crater with a radius of 100 meters was blasted out of the ground. The blue thunder power splashed out and covered the ground thousands of meters around it, turning the ground into a scorched land. In the blink of an eye, 2 of the 4 commanders were killed. The remaining 2 commanders were still besieging Ji Tianxing. However, their hearts were also filled with anxiety and fear. As the 2 of them fought Ji Tianxing, they gave orders to the surrounding guard captains. "What are you doing? Quick, go and inform them. Bastard! Go report to the main house and ask them to send reinforcements." After receiving the order, the panic-stricken guards immediately rushed to the palace at the entrance of the herb garden to pass on the message. However, Ji Tianxing was prepared. After getting rid of the siege of the 2 commanders, he cut through the night sky and rushed to the entrance of the herb garden. After 100 breaths, he arrived at the entrance of the herb garden. He saw a few ancient and majestic palaces. They were brightly lit and there were vague figures flashing. The palaces were noisy. It was chaotic and noisy. Obviously, the guards, pharmacists, and handymen stationed in the palaces only knew that someone had sneaked into the herb garden and started a massacre. They didn't know what was going on. Ji Tianxing stood in the night sky above the palaces. He murmured with a cold expression, "In these palaces, there are countless medicinal herbs and elixirs. They are priceless. They must be destroyed." As he said that, he slowly raised his red left arm. A violent red flame primordial fire gushed out from his palm. "Burning sky palm!" He shouted in a low voice like a muffled thunder. He slammed his palm on the ground in front of him. Suddenly, a giant flaming palm with a radius of hundreds of meters appeared. It hit the ground with a destructive power. Boom! In the earth-shattering noise, 2 tall and majestic palaces were smashed by the giant flaming palm and turned into brick ruins. The overwhelming red flame primordial fire burst out and covered a radius of 10 miles. It turned the entire area into a sea of red flame. The terrifying impact caused the other 2 palaces to collapse and be engulfed by the sea of fire. In the 4 palaces, there were not only piles of medicinal herbs and finished elixirs. There were also dozens of garden guards, dozens of pharmacists, and thousands of handymen cultivating medicinal herbs. As the 4 palaces were destroyed, all the medicinal herbs and elixirs were destroyed. They were burned to ashes by the endless sea of fire. Even more than 1,000 people in the palaces were killed or injured. There were only a few survivors who could escape the sea of fire. When the 2 guard commanders rushed to the scene and saw the ruins and the sea of fire, they were so angry that they almost went berserk. They roared wildly with their eyes wide open. "Ah! You crazy executioner, I'll fight it out with you. Bastard! Even if I kill you thousands of times, it will not be able to quell the hatred in my heart." The 2 commanders waved their swords and sabers crazily. They performed their lifetime's unique skills and besieged Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing hurriedly turned around and flew towards the other side of the herb garden. There was still an area with a radius of 40 miles. The herb garden was still intact, and there were countless medicinal herbs surviving. The 2 guard commanders were so angry that they almost lost their minds. They chased Ji Tianxing to the sky above the herb garden and attacked him recklessly. Ji Tianxing also fought back. He performed his unique sword skills and fought with the 2 commanders. Red Dragon Flash. Shatter the mountain and river. Scorching sun fire. The saber light and sword light from the 2 sides collided fiercely in the night sky. The dazzling true essence light burst out and illuminated the surroundings. The shock waves of the battle spread out, shattering the earth below and creating a scene of desolation. The three fought until the heavens darkened and the earth quaked. The world was thrown into chaos, and no one dared to approach. The two sides had only exchanged 20-some blows, but the herb garden within 40 miles had been completely destroyed. The earth had also been reduced to scorched ruins. The two guard commanders were too heavily injured. They could no longer hold on and were killed by Ji Tianxing. The battle was finally over, and the entire 100-flower garden had been completely destroyed. All the herb gardens had been reduced to ruins. The herbs and pills stored in the palaces had been reduced to ashes. Even the guards, laborers, and alchemists of the herb garden had been wiped out. Such a heavy blow was enough to cause the Duanmu clan to suffer a great loss of vitality. But this was still not enough. Ji Tianxing quietly left with the little black dragon and Qianyu, rushing to the longevity garden as quickly as possible. After all, the longevity garden was the most important of the 4 herb gardens, the core herb garden of the Duanmu clan. Chapter 677. 100-Flower Garden and Longevity Garden. One was in the east and the other was in the north of Greenwood City. There was a distance of 2,000 miles between the two gardens. Even with Ji Tianxing's sword kinesis flight, it took him 4 hours to reach the vicinity of Longevity Garden. It was the wee hours of the morning. The sky was dark and moonless while the ground was silent. He stood on top of a tall mountain outside the Garden of Longevity, silently observing the topography of the Garden of Longevity, and silently calculating. It's been 4 hours since I destroyed 100-Flower Garden. Even if the surviving guards and elixir masters in 100-Flower Garden rushed to Greenwood City to report, they would need at least 6 hours. If the Duanmu family realizes that something is wrong and sends reinforcements to Longevity Garden, it would definitely be 10 hours later. I only have 10 hours. I have to destroy Longevity Garden as soon as possible. At the thought of this, he secretly clenched his fists and his eyes became serious and determined. Following that, Ji Tianxing used an hour to observe the layout of the entire Longevity Garden. The Garden of Longevity was the largest of the 4 gardens, spanning a radius of 200 miles. Moreover, the garden was not a basin or plain but a continuous mountain range. There were 9 dark green mountain ranges in Longevity Garden and more than a dozen green mountain peaks filled with spirit herbs. According to Yun Yao's intelligence, there were more than 300 guards, 6 guard commanders and an ancient mutated beast, the heavenly wind firebird, in Longevity Garden. Most importantly, the defensive formation protecting the entire Longevity Garden was a soul-level formation built by the Duanmu family with all their wealth and manpower. This formation was like a dark green canopy that enveloped a radius of 200 miles, protecting the entire medicinal garden. It was because of the protection of this formation and the heavenly wind firebird that Longevity Garden was so safe that almost no one dared to invade. Ji Tianxing sneaked to the edge of Longevity Garden and observed the defensive formation at a close distance. An hour later, a look of disappointment flashed through his eyes. He had to admit a fact. Although he was a formation grandmaster, he was only at divine origin realm and could not break this soul-level formation. Ji Tianxing furrowed his brows and observed the dark blue sky with a serious expression. He was racking his brains to think of a way to break it. A moment later, an idea flashed through his mind. No formation is perfect. There are bound to be flaws and weak points. This sky-like formation looks invulnerable, but it definitely has weak points and flaws. It's just that they're hidden and I can't find them for the time being. If the weak point of this formation wasn't on the surface, then it was very likely to be underground. If there's no door to heaven, then I'll enter the earth. If I sneak into the Longevity Garden from underground, I might have a chance to succeed. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing's eyes flashed with anticipation. He hurriedly used the power of the earth element. His entire body was covered in a layer of yellow light. Like a sharp shuttle, He drilled into the ground and dived deep into the ground. He swam in the depths of the underground, moving stealthily like a fish swimming in the water. About half an hour later, he swam 5 miles underground and finally stopped. On the dark blue light screen in front of him, there was an area that was lighter in color. This was one of the weak points of the formation. This weak point was very well hidden. It was hidden 200 meters underground and was only the size of a palm. An ordinary formation master would never be able to find it. However, Ji Tianqing's formation skills were superb and he was very meticulous. He successfully found this weak point. Of course, even if he found the weak point of the formation, he wouldn't be able to break it. If a Sky Origin stage expert wanted to break a soul-level formation, they could only rely on the power of a soul-level artifact. Therefore, Ji Tianqing took out the Ice Dragon Hammer from his interspatial ring. Swoosh! A dazzling white light flashed and a white bone hammer appeared in Ji Tianqing's palm. This bone hammer was about 4 feet long. The handle was a slightly curved bone club. It was as thick as Ji Tianqing's arm. The end of the handle was connected to a white rhinoceros horn that was half a meter long. It was the hammer of the Ice Dragon Hammer. From the outside, this Ice Dragon Hammer looked like a hammer, but also like a sickle. However, the Ice Dragon Hammer looked simple and unadorned. It didn't have many decorations or carvings. If one looked closely, they would find that the Ice Dragon Hammer was engraved with spirit runes and a few ancient demon race words. It contained a mysterious and vast power that seemed to be connected to heaven and earth. It was as heavy as a mountain and as vigorous as the sea. Ji Tianqing held the Ice Dragon Hammer in his right hand and felt cold. A formless cold air rushed into his body and into his mind. That cold air immediately shook his mind. His soul and thoughts became abnormally calm and sharp. This feeling was something that a Sky Origin stage weapon wouldn't have. With the Ice Dragon Hammer in his hand, Ji Tianqing became more confident and domineering. His eyes became brighter and sharper. He silently used the Ice Dragon art and controlled the power of the Ice Dragon Hammer. It lit up with a dazzling white light and emitted a bone-chilling cold. Very quickly, the sparkling and translucent rhinoceros horn was wrapped in white light, accumulating a terrifying power. Without hesitation, Ji Tianqing raised his hammer and smashed it onto the weak point of the defensive formation. With a bang, the weak point of the formation was smashed open on the spot. A ripple-like crack appeared on the dark green light screen. It's indeed effective. The Ice Dragon Hammer is indeed worthy of being the demon race's clan treasure, a top soul-level magic treasure. Ji Tianqing revealed a look of joy as he praised in his heart. He raised the Ice Dragon Hammer once again and smashed it onto the weak point of the formation with all his might. Crack! With a crisp cracking sound, the weak point of the formation was immediately broken, and a fist-sized hole appeared. Dark green spirit energy continuously gushed out from the hole. This was the power of the formation leaking out. Ji Tianqing raised the Ice Dragon Hammer again and smashed it around the hole a dozen times. The hole quickly expanded to about half a meter, turning into a large gap. It's finally done. Ji Tianqing hurriedly put away the Ice Dragon Hammer, passed through the gap, and entered the defensive formation. He successfully entered the interior of the herb garden and quickly swam up to the surface. Very quickly, he came out from the depths of the ground and returned to the forest on the surface. At first glance, the surrounding dense forest was filled with large trees. However, when Ji Tianqing focused his gaze, he realized that every blade of grass and tree in the forest was a rare and precious medicinal herb. Endless medicinal herbs and trees wrapped around the entire mountain peak, forming a medicinal mountain that was thousands of feet tall. In the Longevity Garden, there were more than a dozen of such medicinal mountains. Ji Tianqing looked around a few times before flying out of the dense forest and into the dark night sky. He looked down at the medicinal mountain below him and slowly raised his left arm. He was about to use the heaven-burning palm to turn the entire medicinal mountain into ruins. But at this moment, in the night sky 1,000 meters behind him, a bright yellow flame suddenly lit up and flew over as fast as lightning. Swish! In the blink of an eye, that dazzling flame flew 1,000 meters away and arrived behind Ji Tianqing. Chapter 678. As the mountain-like firebird flew over, a violent hurricane appeared in the night sky. Ji Tianqing immediately turned around and looked at the giant firebird in the night sky. He frowned and his pupils constricted. This was a firebird that was completely red. It was as large as a mountain, and its wings could cover the sky. It looked a little like the legendary vermilion bird. Its appearance was majestic and mighty. There were 9 dark golden feathers on its head and 18 100-meter-long tail feathers on its tail. It looked very gorgeous and beautiful. However, its aura was not as sacred and majestic as that of a divine beast. Instead, it was domineering and violent. Even though it was floating in the night sky and did not attack, it was emitting a violent fighting spirit. Its body lit up with flames, illuminating the night sky in a radius of dozens of miles. It was like a blazing sun hanging in the sky. The extremely high temperature and waves of fire caused the night sky around it to distort. Ji Tianqing immediately understood when he saw the giant firebird's appearance. This firebird that was as large as a mountain was the ancient beast that guarded the Garden of Longevity, the Skywind Firebird. Just as Ji Tianqing was secretly on guard, the heavenly wind firebird stared at him for a while and spoke. "Kid, who are you? How dare you barge into the Longevity Garden? Do you want to die?" The heavenly wind firebird actually spoke human language, and its pronunciation was perfect. It was no different from a human's speech. Ji Tianqing was a little surprised, but he was not surprised. After all, this heavenly wind firebird had been reared by the Duanmu family for hundreds of years. Its intelligence was basically equivalent to a human's. The heavenly wind firebird saw that Ji Tianqing was silent, so it shouted in a dignified tone, "Kid, you don't have to explain anything. I saw you barge into the Longevity Garden with my own eyes. If you don't want to die, cripple your own cultivation and kneel down to beg for mercy. Don't wait for me to make a move. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep your life and will definitely be turned into ashes." The heavenly wind firebird had an arrogant attitude. Its tone was very domineering and unquestionable. Ji Tianqing curled the corner of his mouth, revealing a mocking sneer. "Ha ha! A feathered beast dares to be so arrogant and conceited? Looks like you've been tyrannical in the Duanmu clan for too long." The firebird of heavenly wind was instantly enraged, and its eyes were filled with fury and killing intent. "Tsk! What a reckless little thing! You actually dare to insult this prince. You must be tired of living. It just so happens that I've been bored in the Longevity Garden for many years, so I'll amuse myself with you tonight. Brat, this king will let you taste the feeling of being roasted by fire and wishing you were dead." As it spoke, the firebird's eyes were filled with ridicule and cruelty. Ji Tianqing held the black dragon sword and crooked his finger at the firebird. He sneered and said, "Humph! It just so happens that I also want to have a taste of an ancient beast. Big roast chicken, I will cut you into slices, wrap you in spices and slowly savor you." The Skywind flaming bird was highly respected in the Duanmu clan, and it was even an overlord in the Longevity Garden that kept its word. It was worshipped by countless guards and servants, so when had it ever been ridiculed like this? It flapped its wings furiously, opened its sharp beak and cursed coldly. "Little thing, you've successfully angered this king. You're dead meat. This king will burn you to ashes and use you as fertilizer for planting flowers." As it spoke, it opened its beak and spat out a bright yellow pillar of fire that was 100 meters long, which blasted toward Ji Tianqing. That bright yellow pillar of fire was formed from earth fire, and its power was incomparably violent. It could melt a mountain into magma. Seeing that the Firebird of Heavenly Wind was about to go crazy from anger, Ji Tianxing's eyes flashed with a sneer. He pulled out the black dragon sword and slashed at the Firebird of Heavenly Wind with all his might to meet that pillar of fire. Dragon soars from the 9 heavens. With a wave of the black dragon sword, a huge ice dragon appeared and blasted toward the pillar of fire descending from the sky. Ice and fire countered each other, so Ji Tianxing wanted to test the Firebird of Heavenly Wind's strength. Boom! In the deafening sound, the bright yellow pillar of fire trembled violently and burst into flames. However, the pillar of fire was still intact, and it continued to blast toward Ji Tianxing. On the other hand, the ice dragon was smashed into pieces by the pillar of fire. It turned into ice crystals that filled the sky and scattered on the herb mountain below. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and his eyes became serious. This Firebird of Heavenly Wind is actually so powerful? Seeing the pillar of fire coming toward him, Ji Tianxing had nowhere to hide. He could only close the golden wings on his back to protect himself. Wings of the Golden Rock. At the same time, the towering pillar of fire hit the wings of the Golden Rock and engulfed Ji Tianxing's figure. Wrapped in the pillar of fire, he plummeted from the night sky and blasted into the herb mountain below. Boom! A dull and loud sound burst out. The terrifyingly powerful pillar of fire blasted the herb mountain into a crater with a radius of 1,000 meters and dozens of huge ravines. The entire herb mountain shook violently, and countless soil and boulders collapsed. Bright yellow earth fire burst out and covered the entire mountain peak. Instantly, the peak of the herb mountain turned into a sea of fire. Countless precious herb trees and flowers were burned to ashes in the sea of fire. Even the earth and soil on the mountain peak were burned into scorched ruins by the earth fire. The Firebird of Heavenly Wind hovered above the herb mountain and looked down at Ji Tianxing at the bottom of the crater. It sneered contemptuously. Ha 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 ha! You damned little thing, now you know how powerful I am, right? But don't kneel down and beg for mercy. That's too boring. I said I would burn you to ashes, and I will do it. Ji Tianxing spread his golden wings and shook off the scorched earth on his body. Swoosh! He stood up unscathed, spread his wings, and flew out of the crater. He returned to the night sky and faced the Firebird of Heavenly Wind from 1,000 meters away. This damned Firebird really has the strength of a half-step soul-tempering realm cultivator. If I don't use the Ice Dragon Hammer, I won't be its match. Ji Tianxing narrowed his eyes as this thought flashed through his mind. Of course, although he thought this, he looked even more arrogant on the surface. He sneered contemptuously. Big roasted chicken, is this all you've got? As the guardian beast of the Garden of Longevity, a half-step soul-tempering realm monster king, you're actually so weak. You're really a weakling. The Firebird of Heavenly Wind found it unbelievable that he was unscathed. It thought it was seeing things. Hearing his mocking words, the Firebird of Heavenly Wind became even more furious. It roared in a low voice, "Don't be so smug, you little worm. Even if you're lucky enough to escape this time, you won't be able to block my earth fire. I'll show you the true power of the earth fire right now." As soon as it finished speaking, the Firebird of Heavenly Wind's body ignited with flames and gathered in its claws, forming 2 huge fireballs. It continued to compress the 2 fireballs, causing the endless earth fire to condense until it was the size of a millstone. Die. Chapter 679. The Firebird's 2 fireballs didn't look big, but their power was terrifying. Ji Tianxing purposely angered the Skywind Firebird in order to destroy the Longevity Garden. Therefore, he wouldn't fight the Firebird for the time being. When the Firebird condensed the 2 geocentric fireballs, he had already run away. Whoosh! Whoosh! When the geocentric fireballs came whistling and smashed toward him with destructive power, he was already 5 miles away. One of the geocentric fireballs brushed past him and was narrowly dodged. Bang! It smashed into the herb mountain below. Instantly, the entire herb mountain was smashed into pieces by the geocentric fireball. The terrifying geocentric flames exploded and turned the entire herb mountain into a sea of fire. Every single blade of grass, every single tree, and every single medicinal herb on the 1,000-jang-tall mountain was burned into ashes. Even the soil and rocks were turned into dark red lava by the geocentric flames and flowed in all directions. The other geocentric fireball chased after Ji Tianxing for 1,000 meters and finally hit him. The moment before the geocentric fireball hit him, he poured his true essence into his golden wings and closed them to protect himself. Bang! The geocentric fireball smashed into the golden wings and smashed him into the herb mountain from the sky. Following an earth-shattering explosion, a 1,000-meter-wide crater appeared in the dark green mountain range filled with medicinal herbs. The entire mountain range shook violently from the impact. Countless wide gullies were split open, and countless earth and boulders collapsed. The geocentric flames that could destroy the world exploded and turned the area within a 10-mile radius into a sea of fire. All the herb trees were burned to ashes. The earth and herb mountain were also melted into dark red lava that flowed freely in all directions. Wherever the lava flowed through, the mountain became a pitch-black scorched ruin. The entire herb mountain was engulfed in raging flames and turned into a sea of fire. The lava flowed in all directions like waves. When the firebird saw this, its huge body shook, and its eyes were filled with regret. It's over. This king actually forgot that the earth core fire would destroy the herb mountain and incinerate countless herbs. That damned little bastard! You caused this prince to be muddle-headed for a moment and actually made such a big mistake. You must be punished by the main house. Despicable and shameless reptile, even if I burn you to ashes, I still won't be able to vent my hatred. Only then did the heavenly wind fiery bird wake up from its stupor. It was furious and regretful. It cursed furiously. Its heart was filled with worry as it guessed how the Duanmu clan would punish it after finding out that the herb mountain had been destroyed. At this moment, a golden light flew out from the raging sea of fire. Shwa! The golden light flew into the sky and stopped 1,000 meters away from the firebird, revealing a tall and handsome figure. He was Ji Tianxing. Apart from his slightly pale face, there were no other injuries on his body. When the heavenly wind fiery bird saw him appear safe and sound, it turned pale with fright. Its eyes widened in shock. You're not dead yet? How is this possible? That ball of earth core fire was able to shatter 1,000 feet tall mountain and turn the ground into magma. Its power was naturally terrifying. The heavenly wind fiery bird could not believe that Ji Tianxing was not killed on the spot after being hit by its ball of earth core fire. This was simply too unbelievable. Ji Tianxing looked at the heavenly wind fiery bird with a mocking expression and sneered contemptuously. You stupid bird! You're really as stupid as a pig and as weak as a chicken. What bullsh *T earth core fire. You're not even qualified to tickle me. Stupid bird, what other tricks do you have? Show them all and let me see what you're capable of. As he spoke, Ji Tianxing hooked his finger at the heavenly wind fiery bird. His expression was arrogant and provocative. The heavenly wind fiery bird was used to riding roughshod over others. It was used to being high up and being worshipped by others. Ji Tianxing's wanton humiliation made it tremble with anger. Its golden eyes were covered with a layer of red. Brat! You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You must be tired of living. The heavenly wind fiery bird was completely enraged. It no longer cared about the consequences and used all its strength to perform its ultimate move. Wind and fire in the sky. It roared in a low voice and flapped its wings crazily. It stirred up an earth-shattering hurricane, causing a fierce wind to blow for dozens of miles. Bright yellow earth core fire and red heavenly core fire rose from its body. The two types of flames spread out between its left and right wings and rose fiercely. The heavenly core fire and earth core fire became even more violent with the help of the wind. Its power also doubled. Go to hell. The heavenly wind fiery bird's aura reached its peak. When the power of the flames reached its limit, it roared furiously and released an earth-shattering flame. The heavenly core fire and earth core fire merged with the hurricane and turned into a flaming tornado that was thousands of feet tall. It swept toward Ji Tianxing. Swoosh! Swoosh! Two terrifying flaming tornadoes swept across the night sky in the blink of an eye. They flew for dozens of miles and caught up with Ji Tianxing, who was running away quickly. Ji Tianxing had already escaped when he saw that the situation was not good. But just as he flew over another mountain range, he was hit by the flaming tornadoes that could destroy heaven and earth. He fell into the tornadoes and was crazily strangled. Suddenly, the dark green mountain range was strangled by the two flaming tornadoes. The earth shook and the mountains shook, and two deep scorched pits appeared. The area within a radius of 20 miles was filled with violent flames and tornadoes. The herbs and trees in the mountain were crushed by the tornadoes and burned to ashes by the flames. Even the earth and rocks were melted into magma by the terrifying flames and flowed freely. The flaming tornadoes raged for a long time. Countless magma was blown away and scattered on the surrounding ground, igniting a few neighboring herb mountains. The area within a radius of more than 30 miles was turned into a sea of fire. The monstrous fire lit up half the sky and also alarmed countless guards and commanders in the herb garden. Exclamations sounded around the herb garden as more than 100 guards rushed over. In the distant night sky, 5 guard commanders flew across the night sky at lightning speed and rushed toward the heavenly wind fiery bird. The heavenly wind fiery bird floated in the sky and looked down at the mountain range below. It saw that the entire mountain range was turned into a sea of fire, countless herbs were burned, and the earth was turned into magma and scorched earth. The regret in its heart deepened. Damn it! I've destroyed another mountain range and burned down 2 medicinal mountains. This time it's over. Even if I kill that brat, the main family will definitely not forgive me. The heavenly wind fiery bird was both regretful and furious. Even if it turned Ji Tianxing into ashes, it would not be appeased. It stared at the sea of fire, searching for Ji Tianxing's figure. However, the sea of fire raged for a long time and Ji Tianxing's figure did not appear again. Not long after, the 5 guard commanders arrived and flew to the heavenly wind fiery bird's side. When they saw that the 2 mountain ranges had turned into a sea of fire, they were instantly shocked and let out a confused cry. Senior Heavenly Wind, what's going on? Senior Heavenly Wind, why did you set fire to several herb mountains? Chapter 680. Although the strength and status of the 5 guard commanders were lower than the Firebird, they were still very respectful towards the Firebird. They were usually very respectful to the Firebird of Heavenly Wind. When they opened their mouths, they would always call him Senior. They didn't dare to slight him in the least. However, the scene in front of them terrified them and made them unable to calm down. Therefore, the 5 commanders all opened their mouths to ask questions, their tone anxious and puzzled. The Firebird of Heavenly Wind suppressed its rage and explained in a low voice, "Why would I set a fire for no reason? Wasn't it because a little bastard broke into the herb garden that I took action?" When the 5 commanders heard this, they understood the reason and quickly searched for traces of the intruder. Someone broke into the herb garden? Who is so bold? Are they tired of living? Senior Firebird, are you sure only one person broke into the herb garden? The herb garden is protected by a soul-level array. Who can break the soul-level array and break in? Could it be a soul-level cultivator? Where is that person? Why is there no trace of him? The Firebird of the Heavenly Wind was extremely irritated by the questions of the 5 commanders, and it roared angrily, "All of you, shut up! That little bastard who broke into the herb garden has been burned to ashes by my wind and fire. I will report this matter to the main family and take responsibility. I don't need you juniors to tell me what to do." The Firebird had been guarding the herb garden for hundreds of years, and his status was much higher than the 5 commanders. When the 5 commanders saw that he was angry, they quickly shut up and didn't dare to say anything else. Everyone was silent for a moment before one of the commanders suggested, "Everyone, let's cast spells to extinguish the fire as soon as possible." The other commanders quickly nodded in agreement. "Yes. We can't let the fire spread or it will affect more of the herb mountains. At this point, we can only put out the fire first. Let's work together to cast rain. This way we can put out the fire faster." Just as everyone was about to cast spells to make rain, a dazzling golden light suddenly flew out from the sea of fire below. Swoosh! That sacred and rich golden light instantly rushed out of the sea of fire and flew into the sky not far away. The Firebird of Heavenly Wind and the 5 commanders stared blankly at the ball of golden light. Only then did they realize that it was a golden seal the size of a house. The surface of the golden seal was engraved with spirit runes and pictures of mountains and rivers. There was also a divine dragon and a flying phoenix carved on it, which looked very lifelike. The entire golden seal exuded a sacred aura, containing a majestic aura, as well as a domineering aura that encompassed mountains and rivers. With the knowledge of the Firebird and the 5 commanders, they could tell at a glance that this golden seal was definitely a soul-grade magic treasure. At this moment, the magic treasure golden seal emitted a mass of golden light, and a white-robed youth appeared out of thin air. It was Ji Tianxing. He brushed the sleeves of his white robe with a smile on his face. He was completely unscathed. When the flaming hurricane hit him, he took out the seal of mountains and rivers at the critical moment and dived into the golden seal without hesitation. When the Emperor gave him the seal of mountains and rivers, the Imperial Tutor had told him that the seal of mountains and rivers could help him block a fatal blow from a soul refinement realm cultivator. It could save him a total of 3 times. This magic treasure that the Emperor had personally refined could even block a soul refinement realm cultivator's all-out attack. The Firebird of Heavenly Wind was only a half-step soul refinement realm cultivator, so the seal of mountains and rivers could naturally block the flaming hurricane and protect Ji Tianxing from harm. Ji Tianxing used his cultivation to shrink the seal of mountains and rivers by 10,000 times and held it in his palm. He stared at the golden seal in his palm and murmured with satisfaction, "Not bad, not bad. The Emperor has put in a lot of effort, as expected of a soul-grade magic treasure." At this moment, the Firebird of Heavenly Wind and the 5 commanders finally regained their senses. The Firebird of Heavenly Wind widened its eyes in shock and shouted in disbelief, "God damn bastard, you're still alive! You're just a nobody, how can you have a soul-grade magic treasure?" The expressions of the 5 commanders became even more interesting. While they were shocked, they also looked at the Firebird of Heavenly Wind with strange expressions and couldn't help but mutter, "Didn't Senior Heavenly Wind say that he had already killed the intruder? How can that kid still be unharmed? Who is that kid? How can he enter the herb garden alone? How can he break the soul-grade array? Although that guy has a soul-grade magic treasure, he's only at the 4th level of the Sky Origin stage. How can Senior Heavenly Wind not kill him?" The 5 commanders had been stationed in the herb garden for a long time and hadn't left for many years. They didn't know anything about the outside world and didn't know Ji Tianxing. They only felt that it was inconceivable. Who was Ji Tianxing? At this time, Ji Tianxing had already put away the seal of mountains and rivers. He looked at the Firebird of Heavenly Wind with a smile and said with contempt, "Stupid bird, you've disappointed me. This little trick is not enough. I didn't think that you, a half-step soul refinement realm cultivator, would call for help when you can't beat me. TSK, look at the 5 helpers you've brought. What kind of trash are they? Are you trying to send them to their deaths?" The Firebird of Heavenly Wind was so angry that it almost vomited blood. Its body trembled and its feathers stood up. "You damned bastard! Reptile! Beast! I'm so angry! Today, no matter what, I will cut you into pieces and burn you to ashes." The firebird of heavenly wind roared angrily. It was on the verge of going berserk. Its body was covered in flames and its killing intent soared to the sky. It had used all its strength. The 5 commanders were furious as well. They glared at Ji Tianqing, wishing they could skin him alive and pull out his tendons. However, when they saw that the firebird of heavenly wind was about to set fire again, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. They quickly tried to stop it. "Senior Heavenly Wind, please calm down. You can't set fire again." "That's right. Senior Heavenly Wind, if you attack again, the entire herb garden will become a sea of fire." "That's right. If the entire herb garden is destroyed, we can all slit our throats and commit suicide to atone for our sins." "Senior Heavenly Wind, please stop. Leave that little bastard to us. You just need to watch the battle." The 5 commanders tried to persuade the firebird of heavenly wind as they rushed toward Ji Tianqing. They were afraid that the firebird of heavenly wind would not be able to control itself and set fire to the herb garden. The firebird of heavenly wind suppressed its anger and had to calm down. Its intelligence was not low. After thinking about it calmly, it understood that Ji Tianqing was deliberately provoking it so that he could use its flames to destroy the herb garden. Therefore, it suppressed its murderous intent and did not attack. It stood in the night sky and watched the battle. "Good. I want to see what you 5 juniors are capable of, and whether you can kill that kid." The 5 commanders drew their weapons and charged toward Ji Tianqing with murderous intent. They wanted to attack him together. Ji Tianqing turned around and fled without hesitation. He flew toward another mountain range full of herbs. He deliberately slowed down. Just as he flew over the mountain range, the 5 commanders caught up with him. "Kill him! We can't let him escape! Everyone, be careful! Don't let the herb mountain be affected." Chapter 681. The commanders guarding the longevity garden were all at the 6th level of the sky origin stage. Plus, the 5 of them had cultivated a set of joint martial art called the Sky Shattering of 5 Directions. They worked well together. They were scattered in 5 directions around Ji Tianqing. They waved their swords and sabers at the same time, releasing powerful and dazzling saber light and sword light. Sky Heart Flame Slash, 1000 Star Destruction, Red Rainbow Purple Dragon Break, Blue Cloud Destruction, Sky Shattering of 5 Directions. The 5 commanders joined forces and attacked together. Instantly, Ji Tianqing's figure was drowned out by the enormous and terrifying saber and sword shadows. The area within 10 miles was also covered by a powerful force. It was like an invisible cage. Ji Tianqing was trapped in this invisible cage. He couldn't escape at all. If he couldn't break through the 5 commanders' encirclement, he would definitely be killed by them. Soon, more than a dozen multicolored saber lights, sword lights, and rainbows were about to hit Ji Tianqing. At the critical moment, he closed his wings without hesitation and used them to protect himself. Wings of the Golden Rock. Then, a series of saber light, sword light and rainbow light hit him, making a deafening sound. Bang! 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 Ji Tianqing fell from the sky and smashed into the dark green mountain. With a loud bang, a 3,000-meter tall mountain of herbs was smashed into pieces, on the verge of collapsing. Then, the overwhelming saber light and sword light slashed at the mountain range, cutting it in half and creating a dense ravine. The entire mountain was shaking violently. Rocks and soil were flying in the sky. They were all covered by the colorful True Origin stage light. A herb mountain and half of the mountain were destroyed. Countless herbs and trees were smashed into powder. They were mixed with the dust and scattered everywhere. The 5 commanders saw this scene. Their expressions were complicated. They felt heartache and relief at the same time. They felt heartache because another herb mountain was destroyed. They didn't know how to explain such a great loss to the main house. Fortunately, they had joined forces to besiege Ji Tianqing. Looking at the scene of the mountains collapsing and the earth cracking, this person was most likely killed. However, the 5 commanders did not dare to relax. They all opened their eyes wide and stared at the broken mountain range below. They even released their spiritual senses to explore the ruins below, searching for traces of Ji Tianxing. Only the Firebird of Heavenly Wind's reaction was calm and indifferent, and there was even a hint of mockery in its eyes. With its previous experience, it dared to conclude that the combined attack of 5 commanders wouldn't even be enough to tickle that brat. Reality proved that the Heavenly Wind Firebird had guessed correctly. In the next moment, a dazzling golden light flew out from the ruins of the broken mountain range. It was a white-robed figure. He flapped his golden wings and flew into the night sky like a streak of light. He didn't stop in the slightest and directly charged towards the nearest guard commander. His right hand held a bone hammer that was like white jade, and he raised it and smashed it down. Without a doubt, the bone hammer in Ji Tianxing's hand was the Demon Clan's clan treasure, the Ice Dragon Hammer. He used the Ice Dragon art and activated the power of the Ice Dragon Hammer, smashing out a ball of icy white light the size of a house. That ball of light seemed to be dense like mist, but it contained the power of the Ice Dragon and the power of the 1,000-year-old Yin Wind. It was truly the coldest in the world, and its power was terrifying. That guard commander was still in a daze. His eyes were wide open, revealing a look of disbelief. He couldn't believe that he and his 4 companions couldn't even hurt Ji Tianxing in the slightest after joining forces and unleashing such a powerful attack. When he saw the ball of white icy light coming and sensed that the situation was not good, it was already too late to dodge. That ball of white icy light, with a speed faster than lightning, instantly smashed into him. Bang! With a muffled sound, this guard commander was hit by the white icy light on the spot. His protective true essence instantly shattered, and his body immediately collapsed, shattering into tens of thousands of pieces of flesh. A strange scene appeared. The pieces of his body and blood were covered by the white icy light, and immediately turned into white ice crystals. Tens of thousands of ice crystals fell from the night sky onto the broken mountain range below. It was like a hailstorm. The ice crystals that covered the sky and the earth emitted a terrifying coldness after they fell onto the ground, immediately forming a layer of solid ice that covered the entire mountain range. The 4 guards and the Firebird all saw with their own eyes that the entire mountain range turned into a white glacier in the blink of an eye. The soil in the mountain range turned into frozen soil that was as hard as steel. The surviving herbs and trees in the mountain range were also frozen to death, turning into powder. Everyone was stunned, and their faces were filled with astonishment. Even Ji Tianxing, who was in the sky, was stunned. A trace of disbelief flashed in his eyes. A Sky Origin Stage Level 6 powerhouse was smashed to death with one strike of the hammer? The Ice Dragon Hammer is indeed powerful. This is the power of the Demon Clan's ultimate treasure. When Ji Tianxing used the Ice Dragon Hammer to break the array's weak point, he only felt that the Ice Dragon Hammer was very powerful, but he didn't have a direct experience like this. At this moment, when he used the Ice Dragon Hammer to kill a guard commander, he finally felt the terrifying power of the Ice Dragon Hammer. Of course, he was shocked. The other 4 guards came to their senses, and their faces were filled with terror. They hurriedly retreated. Now, they finally believed the Firebird's words. This white-robed young man in front of them was simply a monster. Although his cultivation level wasn't high, he had a soul-level magical weapon in his hand. It was too terrifying. The 4 guards lost all their will to fight. They didn't dare to fight with Ji Tianxing anymore. They just wanted to get away from this terrifying guy as soon as possible. However, Ji Tianxing held the Ice Dragon Hammer and chased after them with a cold smile on his face. Don't you think it's too late to run away now? He flapped his golden wings and rushed towards the 4 guards like a shooting star. He held the Ice Dragon Hammer and was about to attack again. The 4 commanders were scared out of their wit. They immediately scattered in all directions and fled into the distance in a panic. As they fled, they didn't forget to shout anxiously, urging the Firebird to attack. "Senior Heavenly Wind! What are you still standing there for? Quickly stop him! Senior Heavenly Wind, you can't just watch us die. Senior! We have misunderstood you, please kill him quickly!" The Firebird couldn't help but sneer when it saw their terrified looks. This prince was wondering how capable you all were. How dare you question this king's strength? You deserve to die. Of course, it was only saying that to vent the resentment in its heart. After saying that, it flapped its wings and rushed towards Ji Tianqing as fast as lightning, wanting to stop him from killing. Unfortunately, Ji Tianqing had already caught up to the guard commander closest to him. He raised his hammer and smashed it. "Ice Dragon Break!" As he shouted angrily, the crystal-clear Ice Dragon hammer burst out with an overwhelming amount of cold air. It formed an ice dragon that was hundreds of meters long and fiercely attacked the guard commander. Kaboom! The guard commander didn't have time to dodge or block. He was immediately hit by the ice dragon and was blasted into pieces on the spot. His flesh and blood were frozen into ice crystals by the cold air and scattered on the ground below. Instantly, a mountain of herbs was turned into an ice mountain. Brothers, he has to explain that from the 11th to the 15th of this month, he will be going to Shanghai to participate in the Advanced Online Literature Seminar. Chapter 682. At this moment, Ji Tianqing was as ferocious as a dragon. His aura was domineering and powerful. In the blink of an eye, 2 of the 5 powerful guard commanders were killed by him. When the 3 surviving commanders saw that their companions were smashed to pieces with a single hammer, they were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies. Their limbs and legs went soft. When Ji Tianqing smashed the 3rd guard commander to death with his hammer, the Firebird finally arrived and stopped him. "Bastard! You're so savage! Stop for this king!" The Firebird roared and cursed. It opened its mouth and spat out heavenly flames that covered the sky and covered the earth. It poured down towards Ji Tianqing like a flood. Instantly, the sky within 1,000 meters was enveloped by the scarlet heavenly flames. The heavenly flames were like the scorching sun, illuminating half of the night sky, causing the surrounding 10 miles to be incomparably hot. The air was also burned to nothing. Ji Tianqing had no choice but to give up on chasing after the 2 surviving commanders. Instead, he swung the ice dragon hammer at the Firebird. "Stupid bird, I've been waiting for you for a long time," Ji Tianqing sneered and shouted. He channeled all of his power and crazily activated the power of the ice dragon hammer, causing the sky to be filled with white ice light. 1,000 miles of icy wind. With a low shout, the white light that covered the sky and the earth mixed with the 1,000-year-old cold wind and instantly drowned out the endless heavenly flames. The area within a radius of 20 miles turned into a vast expanse of white ice. The cold wind howled between heaven and earth, causing the sky to wrinkle. The mountain range below also collapsed and turned into white glaciers. The heavenly flames released by the Firebird were immediately extinguished. It could not harm Ji Tianqing at all. After the icy wind that swept through the world enveloped the Firebird, the flames on its body immediately fluttered like a candle in the wind that was about to be extinguished. Seeing this, the heavenly wind Firebird widened its eyes in horror, revealing a look of intense shock. "This is the power of the ice dragon rhinoceros? You bastard! The magic treasure in your hand is actually the horn of the ice dragon rhinoceros?" The ice dragon rhinoceros was the nemesis and natural enemy of the Firebird. How could it not recognize it? When it saw that the bone hammer in Ji Tianqing's hand was made from the horn of the ice dragon rhinoceros, it was shocked and angry. A trace of fear flashed through its heart. That was the fear that demonic beasts had towards their natural enemies, an innate fear. Ji Tianqing stood high up in the sky and looked at the Firebird with a smile. He said in a mocking tone, "If I didn't have a way to restrain you, Why would I barge into the longevity garden alone? Firebird of the heavenly wind, accept your fate. You can't protect this herb garden. If you continue to resist stubbornly, I will destroy you and the herb garden together. Ji Tianxing's tone was full of confidence and arrogance, as if he controlled the life and death of the heavenly wind firebird. When he had first entered the herb garden, the heavenly wind flaming bird had spoken to him with such an expression and tone. Now, he was returning an eye for an eye, causing the skywind flaming bird to be greatly humiliated. Bastard! This king is the descendant of the vermilion bird and the blue bird. How noble is my bloodline! How could I be afraid of a lowly rhinoceros? What's more, the magic treasure in your hand is only a horn. Don't even think about defeating this king. You damned bastard, this king swears to live and die with the longevity garden. If you want to destroy the herb garden, you have to step over this king's corpse first. The firebird of the heavenly wind raised its head proudly and cursed angrily while resisting the erosion of the icy wind. Ji Tianxing was not angry. The smile on his face became even more mocking. Good. You stupid bird, you actually have some backbone. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. After saying that, he used the Ice Dragon art again and activated the power of the Ice Dragon hammer, releasing endless icy wind. Ice Dragon slash of 10,000 blades. A vast expanse of white icy air and thousand-year-old cold wind immediately sealed off an area of 10 miles, forming an ice domain. The cold ice condensed into 6 ice dragons, circling around the firebird of the heavenly wind. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they attacked it. The cold wind and cold air also condensed into tens of thousands of ice swords, shuttling back and forth like flowing light, attacking the firebird of the heavenly wind. The firebird of the heavenly wind was suppressed by the ice domain. Not only was it unable to escape, its strength was also weakened. The 6 ice dragons ferociously attacked, and the tens of thousands of ice swords shot out like a rain of arrows, immediately causing it to fall into a desperate situation of life and death. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The ice dragons danced wildly, and the sword light was as dense as rain, causing the ice domain within a radius of 10 miles to fall into extreme chaos and violence. The firebird of the heavenly wind roared angrily, flapping its wings crazily, waving its claws to fight the 6 ice dragons. Moreover, it also released surging spiritual fire of heaven and earth, condensing it into a shield to protect itself, blocking the attacks of the tens of thousands of ice swords. The firebird of the heavenly wind and the 6 ice dragons fiercely clashed, constantly bursting out with muffled bang-bang-bang sounds, overflowing with a violent and devastating force. Countless ice swords bombarded it, causing its fire shield to tremble continuously, constantly bursting out large amounts of sparks. In a short span of 20 breaths, the firebird of the heavenly wind's fire shield collapsed. Its body was covered in countless wounds from the ice dragons and ice swords, many of which were so deep that bones could be seen. Dark red blood gushed out of the wounds, and the power of fire quickly leaked out. Although it desperately resisted and counterattacked, it still shattered 3 ice dragons and shattered thousands of ice swords. However, Ji Tianxing kept urging the power of the ice dragon hammer to replenish the cold air and wind for the ice domain. The shattered ice dragons and ice swords quickly reformed. Unless the firebird of the heavenly wind could completely destroy the ice domain, or destroy the magic treasure, the ice dragon hammer. Otherwise, the ice domain would continuously condense ice dragons and ice swords until it was cut into pieces. Not long after, the firebird of the heavenly wind was covered in wounds from the ice dragons and ice swords. Its entire body was covered in hideous wounds, revealing the dark golden bones within. A rain of blood kept falling from the wounds. Originally, the firebird of the heavenly wind's blood contained the power of the heavenly fire, and it was as hot as fire. However, its blood dripped out, and before it touched the ground, it was frozen into ice crystals by the cold air. Finally, a quarter of an hour passed. There was no place on the firebird of the heavenly wind's body that was unscathed. At least 100 wounds had been inflicted by the ice dragons and thousands of ice swords. It had completely gone crazy. It used the forbidden secret technique, burning blood spirit transformation, and did not hesitate to consume 100 years of its cultivation to unleash its last bit of power. Burning blood spirit transformation. Burning heaven and earth. The firebird of the heavenly wind raised its head and roared, letting out a sorrowful cry. Its feathers, flesh, and blood were all set ablaze. It recklessly released the natural spirit fire and transformed into a dazzling, scorching sun. Boom! The endless spirit fire of heaven and earth exploded like a huge mushroom cloud, blowing the entire ice domain into pieces. The white cold air and the Een wind immediately disappeared in the sea of fire. The heaven and earth within a radius of dozens of miles instantly turned into a domain of fire, and there was only endless fire left in the world. Without a doubt, Ji Tianxing was sent flying. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Even with the protection of the golden wings, he was still severely injured by the firebird of the heavenly wind's dying counterattack. Chapter 683. What was a forbidden secret technique? It was an ultimate technique that was seen as a taboo. It was a secret technique that could not be used unless it was a life and death situation. Once a forbidden secret technique was used, it could stimulate one's ultimate potential and unleash the strongest power in one's life. However, the price of using a forbidden secret technique was also very heavy and unbearable. The heavenly wind firebird had lived for hundreds of years and had hundreds of years of cultivation. However, in order to break through the ice-sealing domain, it had burned its blood and spirit, instantly using up hundreds of years of cultivation. This caused its injuries to worsen and become even more severe. It immediately became an arrow at the end of its flight, and its combat prowess weakened to the extreme. Even if it managed to escape, it would have to recuperate in seclusion for dozens of years before it could recover its vitality. Bearing such a heavy price was the first time in its 100 years of life that it had suffered such a miserable fate. The heavenly wind firebird was covered in blood as it floated in mid-air. It looked at the sea of fire below with extreme grief and indignation. "Little bastard! Your death is not to be regretted. Don't let me find out who you are. Otherwise, I will exterminate your entire family and kill everyone related to you." The heavenly wind firebird's anger and murderous aura were enough to burn mountains and boil seas, destroying heaven and earth. However, after roaring and cursing, it immediately turned and flew away, swaying as it fled into the distance. Now it only had 30% of its combat power left. Its injuries were extremely miserable, and its strength was still weakening. More than half of the longevity garden had been destroyed, so it had nothing to worry about. It only wanted to escape as soon as possible and find a place to hide and recuperate. As for the Duanmu family's anger and punishment, it could not care less. It was more important to save its own life. However, just as the heavenly wind firebird turned around, a golden light flew out from the sea of fire behind it. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing had appeared again. He flapped his golden wings and rushed out of the sea of fire, flying into the sky. Although he was also seriously injured, his face was as pale as a sheet, and the golden light on his wings was somewhat dim. He still retained 60% of his combat power. However, he still retained 60% of his fighting strength. Holding the ice dragon hammer in his hand, his body was still surrounded by a cold white light and cold wind. He stared at the heavenly wind firebird's back and said in a cold voice, "You want to escape in front of me? Too naive." As he spoke, he erupted with boundless and vigorous true essence and crazily poured it into the ice dragon hammer. The 4-foot-long ice dragon hammer immediately emitted a dazzling white light and crazily expanded. In the blink of an eye, the ice dragon hammer expanded dozens of times, turning into a huge ice hammer that was 100 meters long. Ice Dragon World Destruction! Ji Tianqing roared as he waved his hands and used the Ice Dragon art. He controlled the incomparably huge Ice Dragon hammer and fiercely smashed it towards the Firebird. Instantly, the Ice Dragon hammer released a destructive white light that condensed into 300-meter-long ice divine dragons and blasted toward the Firebird. The Firebird of Heavenly Wind immediately revealed a look of horror and let out a cry of despair. It felt the terrifying power of the Ice Dragon hammer and struggled to escape. However, the sky within a radius of 10 miles had been sealed in ice, completely frozen and motionless. It had nowhere to run, and its flying speed was as slow as a snail. It could only watch as the 3 Frost Divine Dragons swooped down with the power to destroy the world. Boom, boom, boom! 3 consecutive deafening explosions erupted, resounding through the sky and shaking the earth. The mountain-like body of the Firebird of Heavenly Wind was smashed into smithereens by the 3 Frost Divine Dragons and exploded into fine powder. Its fate was the same as the 3 commanders that were killed by the hammer. The pieces of its body and flesh were frozen into ice crystals and turned into hailstones that covered the sky and covered the earth, sprinkling in the herb garden. The 3 Frost Divine Dragons were also shattered and smashed into the ground with the power to destroy the world. Boom, boom, boom! Another 3 earth-shattering explosions reverberated between heaven and earth and did not dissipate for a long time. Several mountain ranges on the ground were shattered on the spot, turning into a vast expanse of white glacial ruins. The Longevity Garden, which had a radius of 200 miles, was also shaken to the point of jumping and trembling. Dense cracks appeared on the ground, and the few herb mountains that were lucky enough to survive collapsed one after another. After a full 7 minutes, the dust and white light that covered the sky and the sun slowly dissipated. The loud explosions that reverberated between heaven and earth finally disappeared, and the Longevity Garden regained its peace. Everything was over. At the entrance of the Longevity Garden and the edge of the Herb Garden, there were still more than 1,000 survivors. Among them were 3 guard commanders, more than 200 guards, and many alchemists and servants. When Ji Tianqing was fighting the Firebird of Heavenly Wind, everyone was scared out of their wits. They were terrified and desperate as if the end of the world had arrived. Now that the battle was over, everyone calmed down and settled down. Of the 3 guard commanders who were lucky enough to survive, 2 of them had fought with Ji Tianqing and were lucky enough to escape the battlefield and save their lives. The other commander had been guarding the entrance of the herb garden from beginning to end. He had never seen Ji Tianqing and did not know how terrifying Ji Tianqing was. The 3 of them discussed in low voices for a while. When they saw that there was no more movement in the herb garden, they mustered up their courage and rushed to the center of the herb garden to check the situation of the battlefield. When they flew to the center of the herb garden and stopped in the dark night sky, they were stunned when they saw the scene in the herb garden clearly. After the shocking battle, the Longevity Garden was already in a state of desolation, with ruins everywhere. An area with a radius of 50 kilometers had been scorched and ruined. There was still a raging fire burning and dark red lava flowing on the ground. Another area with a radius of 50 kilometers was a vast expanse of white glaciers and frozen earth. Ice crystals and snowflakes were constantly falling from the sky, and the biting cold wind was howling. 2 hours ago, the Longevity Garden was still full of vitality and the scene of thousands of flowers and trees competing with each other. Now, the Longevity Garden was a ruin of ice and fire. All the herb mountains were destroyed. It was over. The Longevity Garden was completely finished. As the saying went, it was easy to destroy but hard to restore. Even if the Duanmu family rebuilt the herb garden, it would take a year and a huge amount of manpower and resources. If they wanted to plant and cultivate herbs again, it would take at least 10 years before they could return to their previous prosperity and supply the Duanmu family with sufficient herbs. Understanding this, the 3 commanders immediately looked as if they had lost their parent. They beat their chests and stomped their feet, cursing and swearing. Ji Tianxing did not kill the three of them. However, the three of them would rather die in battle than live. That was because they knew very well that the longevity garden was destroyed and the Duanmu family was severely damaged. They would definitely be dealt with the cruelest punishment. After a long time, the three guard commanders came back to their senses and remembered to report the news. What are you waiting for? Hurry and report the news to the main family. Wait a minute. The longevity garden is completely destroyed. Are you sure you want to report the news? Aren't you afraid that the main family will kill all three of us in a fit of rage? Then what should we do? There's no way we can hide such a monstrous disaster. Don't tell me, we have to flee in fear of punishment? Chapter 684. The three guard commanders came up with a plan and actually fled in fear of punishment. They had served the Duanmu family for many years and were very clear about the Duanmu family's style and method. The reason why this ancient family could survive until now was because of their merciless and cruel reward and punishment system. No matter what the reason was, as the guards guarding the longevity garden, it was a huge mistake for them to not be able to protect the herb garden. Such a huge mistake had to be executed without any room for discussion. The three of them thought that since they were going to die anyway, they might as well escape through the night. Perhaps they might still have a chance of survival. With their strength, they could escape to the remote and desolate southern continent and live in anonymity. They could also live a comfortable and carefree life. Not long after the three guards fled, a few guard captains and alchemists hurriedly sent out messenger birds to report the news to the Duanmu family. At the same time, Ji Tianxing had already left the longevity garden and was rushing to the next herb garden, the spiritual herb garden. While he was rushing through the night sky, he had already taken out 2 elixirs from his spatial ring to heal his injuries and restore his true essence. The continuous running and fighting previously had caused him to suffer heavy injuries and had used up half of his true essence. As he was rushing, he was calculating silently in his heart, another 6 hours have passed. The Duanmu family should know about the destruction of the 100-flower garden by now. Perhaps the Duanmu family people are rushing to the 100-flower garden to check on the situation. 4 hours later, the news of the destruction of the longevity garden will also reach the Duanmu family. I don't have much time left. I have to destroy the spiritual herb garden and the greenwood garden as soon as possible. Qianyu saw that he was rushing with injuries and did not stop to rest. She was full of worry and consoled him. Old Ji, you have already destroyed the 100-flower garden and the longevity garden and killed the heavenly wind firebird. You have already caused the Duanmu family to suffer heavy losses. If you continue to move in your current condition, I'm afraid your life will be in danger. At the very least, you have to stop and recuperate for 4 hours. You can continue to move after you recover. However, Ji Tianxing shook his head and said firmly, "No way. If I want to destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden and cause them heavy losses, I have to destroy it thoroughly. The Duanmu family moves very quickly. If I don't speed up, I won't have a chance when the Duanmu family's experts arrive. Qianyu, don't worry. Even if I only have 60% of my power left, with the seal of mountains and rivers and the ice dragon hammer, I can still destroy the remaining 2 medicine gardens." Qianyu saw that he had made up his mind and his tone was resolute, so she no longer tried to dissuade him. It also understood that the longevity garden was the most heavily guarded. The remaining spirit herb garden and greenwood garden had similar defensive capabilities as the 100-flower garden. With Ji Tianxing's strength and means, coupled with the help of the 2 soul-grade magical artifacts, he would definitely not be in any life-threatening danger. Thinking of this, Qianyu finally felt relieved. At this moment, dawn was about to arrive. The ancient and majestic Azurewood city was still in deep slumber beneath the veil of night, and it was quiet and peaceful. The Duanmu mansion, which was 100 miles north of the city, was also lit up with a few lanterns, but it was completely silent. In the depths of the main hall of the main palace, the study of the patriarch was brightly lit. In the simple and elegant study, the patriarch, Duanmu Huang, was sitting in front of the table, burying his head in reading the letters and reports, dealing with the various affairs of the Duanmu family. The Duanmu family, as an ancient family, controlled half of the medicine business in the central region. It was really a large family business. As the patriarch, Duanmu Huang would always have an endless amount of affairs to deal with. Moreover, he had recently lost two outstanding sons. First Madam and Second Madam were also at loggerheads, and had already reached the stage of life and death. The two madams had roped in some elders and leaders, and were currently fighting with each other, causing the Duanmu family to be in a foul atmosphere, in a complete mess. The most headache-inducing thing for a man was a fire in his own backyard. Even an expert like Duanmu Huang was no exception. On one hand, he had to deal with the housework, and on the other hand, he had to manage the family business and affairs. He was already mentally and physically exhausted, so tired that he didn't even have time to take a breather. Very quickly, Duanmu Huang finished reading a few memorials and letters. He then put down the brush in his hand and closed his eyes to rest for a while. As he rubbed his brows, he instructed the guard standing by the door, "Go to the medicinal kitchen and bring a bowl of jade lotus spiritual porridge for this seat." That guard had just bowed and was about to reply with a yes. Just at this moment, a guard commander dressed in golden armor suddenly rushed to the study room door as fast as a gust of wind. He had a flustered expression as he reported, "Patriarch, something bad has happened." Duanmu Huang instantly frowned as he opened his eyes to look at the guard commander at the door. He asked in a deep voice, "What's the matter? Why are you so flustered?" That guard commander immediately reporting to Patriarch, two guard captains who were guarding the 100-flower garden rushed to the residence overnight with injuries to report that the 100-flower garden has been destroyed. What? Duanmu Huang's expression changed instantly, and his eyes revealed a deep shock. He was stunned for a moment and thought that he had heard wrongly. He asked again, "You just said that the 100-flower garden has been destroyed?" When the guard commander saw that Duanmu Huang's expression had darkened and his entire body was bursting with anger, he instantly trembled with fear. He lowered his head and said, "Yes. Those two guard captains are waiting outside the door." Duanmu Huang forcefully suppressed his anger and ordered in a deep voice, "Let them in." That guard commander hurriedly retreated. After a moment, he brought the two guard captains who were dressed in black armor and walked quickly into the study room. Duanmu Huang took a look and saw that the two guard captains were riddled with injuries and bloodstains all over their bodies. Their wounds had not been treated yet. Moreover, the two guard captains were panting from exhaustion and had a panicked expression on their faces. Seeing this scene, Duanmu Huang had a premonition that something had really happened to the 100-flower garden. Sure enough, after the two guard captains entered the study room, they immediately knelt on the ground and reported in a hoarse voice, "Patriarch, just a few hours ago, a mysterious powerhouse broke into the 100-flower garden and killed 4 guards, destroyed 4 storehouses and palaces, and also killed thousands of guards, alchemists and odd-job workers. That mysterious powerhouse also destroyed the entire 100-flower garden and turned it into a wasteland." Duanmu Huang's expression changed drastically. He stood up with a swoosh and his eyes widened in anger. He shouted in disbelief, "The entire 100-flower garden has been destroyed? Are you sure it was done by one person?" The two guard captains were intimidated by his imposing manner and crawled on the ground in horror. They hurriedly replied, "That's right, it was done by one person. We saw it with our own eyes. This matter is absolutely true. That mysterious powerhouse was wearing a white robe and seemed to be quite young." Duanmu Huang's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He was so angry that the veins on his forehead were popping out. He clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. He almost went berserk on the spot. The entire 100-flower garden has been destroyed. What a shocking loss this is. It will affect at least 20% of the industry and business. Chapter 685. The Garden of the 100 Flowers was completely destroyed. Nearly 200 guards were killed. Dozens of alchemists were killed. What kind of disastrous loss was this? 20% of the Duanmu clan's businesses would be affected. They would lose at least a few billion spiritual stones. The Duanmu clan had never suffered such a great loss in the past 100 years. Duanmu Huang was furious. He was so angry that he almost fainted. However, he was a powerful soul-refining stage cultivator after all. He was the clan leader of the Duanmu clan. He quickly suppressed his anger and calmed down. He thought that the person who could break into the Garden of the 100 Flowers alone, kill the 4 commanders and thousands of people, and destroy the entire herb garden must be a powerful soul-refining stage cultivator. There were very few soul-refining stage cultivators in the Central Plains. It was easy to find out who they were. He couldn't figure out who could be so bold as to destroy the Garden of the 100 Flowers in broad daylight. It was a declaration of war against the Duanmu clan. No matter who it was, they would have to suffer the Duanmu clan's anger and revenge. After a while, Duanmu Huang finally calmed down. He asked in a deep voice, "Did you see what the man in the white robe looked like? What was his cultivation level? What kind of magical weapon did he use?" The 2 guards looked at each other and frowned. After a while, they answered carefully, "Clan leader, we were far away. We didn't see his face clearly." "Clan leader, the man in the white robe is at least Sky Origin Stage Level 7. He didn't use any magical weapon. He only used one palm strike to destroy the 4 palaces." Duanmu Huang was stunned. He asked in disbelief, "What? He isn't a soul-refining stage cultivator? He is only at Sky Origin Stage. How could he break into the herb garden alone and kill the 4 commanders and thousands of people?" The 2 guard captains were at a loss for words. They didn't know how to respond. After all, it was too shocking. They had never heard of such a thing before. "Ha ha! You are just a nobody at the 7th level of Sky Origin Stage. How could you destroy our herbal garden and kill over 1,000 of our people? What kind of joke was this? If this news were to spread, I'm afraid everyone in the world would laugh their heads off." Duanmu Huang was so angry that he actually laughed. However, even though the expression on his face was smiling, his tone was as cold as ice and contained a murderous intent that soared into the sky. The entire study room was shrouded in an invisible murderous aura and chilliness. The temperature dropped to freezing point, causing the guard commander and the 2 guard captains to shiver. Duanmu Huang frowned and pondered for a moment before he ordered the 2 guard captains to leave for the time being. He quickly came up with a countermeasure. He asked the commander of the guards to find 2 elders and bring a few experts and a large number of guards to the 100-flower garden to check on the situation. Baihua Garden had been destroyed. With such a big thing happening, it was only right for him to personally check on the situation. However, the situation within Duanmu Manor was even worse. He couldn't leave for the time being and had to hold down the fort within the manor. Otherwise, if he wasn't in the Duanmu estate, there would definitely be even greater chaos in the estate. An hour passed quickly and dawn finally arrived. When the sky was slightly bright, the 2 elders of the Duanmu family brought 8 Sky Prime experts and over 100 guards to the 100-flower garden at lightning speed. Duanmu Huang sat in the study room and ordered the guard commander with a gloomy face, "Pass down my orders." An hour later, all the elders, registrars and deacons are to gather in the main hall for a meeting. Not long after the guard commander turned and left, he returned with a terrified expression and rushed into the study room. "Family head, something bad has happened. Something has happened to the longevity garden." The guard commander was already trembling with fear. When he reported this news, he was extremely terrified and his voice trembled. Duanmu Huang's expression instantly changed. He stood up with a swoosh and asked furiously, "What happened? What happened to the longevity garden?" The guard commander was so frightened that his face turned pale. He immediately knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, "Family head." The guard captains and alchemists of the longevity garden rushed back to report that the longevity garden has also been destroyed. What? Duanmu Huang's eyes widened and his eyeballs almost popped out. His pupils instantly turned blood red. The longevity garden. It's also been destroyed. He shouted angrily, emphasizing each word. Without a doubt, this sudden news did not bring him an even greater blow. It was a disaster that could destroy heaven and earth. The longevity garden was the lifeblood of the Duanmu family. It was the most important herb garden and was equivalent to the lifeline of the Duanmu family. Even 200 flower gardens added together were not as important as one longevity garden. Duanmu Huang was so angry that his entire body trembled. The veins on his forehead were throbbing non-stop. He only regained his senses after a long while. "Get them in here." The guard commander immediately felt as if he had been pardoned and hurriedly left the study room. After a while, he led 3 guard captains and 2 alchemists into the study room, trembling with fear. After these guard captains and alchemists entered the study room, they knelt on the ground and reported with sobbing voices, "Family head. Someone invaded the longevity garden and destroyed all the herb mountains." Not only were more than a dozen herb mountains turned into ruins, even the heavenly wind fire bird was killed by that person. "Family head, quickly go and take a look. The entire herb garden has been turned into ruins." When Duanmu Huang heard the news reported by these people, his vision instantly darkened. His chest felt extremely stifled and painful. The incomparable anger and heavy blow caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His body trembled a few times, and he could not stand steadily. His footsteps staggered and he was about to fall. Fortunately, the guard commander reacted quickly and hurriedly reached out to support Duanmu Huang, preventing him from falling. Family head, what happened to you? Quickly wake up." The guard commander shouted anxiously and hurriedly helped Duanmu Huang sit down on a large chair. Duanmu Huang was so angry that he almost fainted. It took him a while to regain his senses. When he opened his eyes again, his eyeballs were dark red and filled with blood. His entire body was burning with blood-red flames. "The longevity garden. It's been destroyed too," Duanmu Huang muttered in a daze. His tone was filled with grief, indignation, and despair. He looked at the guard captains and alchemists kneeling on the ground and suddenly revealed a bitter cold smile. In an indifferent tone, he shouted, "The longevity garden has been destroyed. Why are you still alive?" As his voice fell, he suddenly raised his broad right palm and released a blood-red light condensed from his murderous aura. He fiercely slapped at the 3 guard captains and 2 alchemists. Bang! In a deafening muffled sound, the 3 guard captains and 2 alchemists were smashed into pieces on the spot by the blood-red light and turned into a pile of flesh and blood on the ground. Even so, Duanmu Huang still could not vent his anger. The murderous aura around his body had not dissipated. He stood up with a cold expression and walked out of the study with a monstrous murderous aura. He hurried to the Duanmu family's main hall. "Immediately gather everyone. I will personally bring people to the longevity garden." Chapter 686. The destruction of the 100-flower garden only affected the Duanmu family's business by 20%. However, the destruction of the longevity garden dealt a heavy blow to the Duanmu family. At least 40% of their business was affected. The loss of the 2 herb gardens was enough to cause the Duanmu family to lose 60% to 70% of their business. It would be difficult for them to recover within 10 years. Although Duanmu Huang appeared calm on the surface and could still act normally and issue orders, he was already on the verge of exploding. But in reality, he was already on the verge of going berserk from his rage. He was like a volcano that could erupt at any moment. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. His eyes were blood-red, and his entire body was surrounded by a blood-red murderous aura. Anyone who saw him was intimidated by his aura and kept quiet out of fear. Even the few elders and managers who had been fighting openly and covertly during this short period of time tactfully chose to remain silent and quiet. After Duanmu Huang entered the main hall, he announced the news and gave a few orders to the elders, managers, and deacons. Just last night, a mysterious powerful figure barged into the 100-flower garden and the longevity garden. He destroyed the 2 herb gardens and killed thousands of people, including the heavenly wind firebird. This person destroyed the herb gardens of the Duanmu family. This is a declaration of war against us. No matter who he is or what kind of background he has, the Duanmu family will be irreconcilable with him. Elder Li, Elder Yang, each of you will lead 10 powerful figures and 100 guards to the spiritual herb garden and the greenwood garden to prevent that mysterious powerful figure from invading. 2nd Elder, 3rd Elder, 4th Elder, and 6th Elder, follow me to the longevity garden to investigate the situation. 1st Elder and 5th Elder, stay in the residence and don't allow anyone to cause trouble. Otherwise, you will be killed on the spot. Duanmu Huang announced the order with a murderous aura. Then, he personally led 4 elders, more than 10 deacons, and more than 100 guards to the longevity garden. When everyone heard that the longevity garden and the 100-flower garden had been destroyed, they were shocked and furious. They finally understood why Duanmu Huang was so angry. After the news spread out, the entire Duanmu estate was in an uproar, and everyone fell into panic and terror. Everyone understood what the destruction of the 2 herb gardens meant. The Duanmu family's disaster had arrived. About 4 hours later, the sun was high up in the sky. Duanmu Huang brought many elders, deacons, and guards with him. Riding on spirit birds, they arrived at the longevity garden in a grandiose manner. When they arrived at the longevity garden, they could see the garden from a distance. The longevity garden, which was originally lush and verdant, was now in ruins. The 1,000-zhang tall herb mountains had all collapsed, and the mountain ranges had also shattered and collapsed. Within a radius of 200 miles, the left half of the area was filled with scorched earth and ruins, while the right half was filled with white glaciers and frozen earth. In the entire medicinal garden, not a trace of green could actually be seen. Upon seeing this, Duanmu Huang, the elders, and the deacons were infuriated, and their hearts were bleeding. Duanmu Huang led the crowd to the palace at the entrance of the herb garden. When the thousands of guards, alchemists, and servants saw the arrival of Duanmu Huang and the rest, they immediately regained their confidence. Everyone immediately stopped talking and making noise, and bowed to pay their respects. After Duanmu Huang landed, his face darkened. He shouted in a hoarse voice, "Gather everyone in the herb garden and interrogate them carefully about what happened. Kill anyone who dares to hide the truth or refuse to cooperate with the investigation." Following his order, the hundreds of guards immediately started to move. They gathered the thousands of people and guarded them strictly. More than 10 deacons began to interrogate these people. Duanmu Huang personally led 4 elders to the sky above the longevity garden to carefully observe the ruins of the battlefield. They were all martial arts powerhouses with extensive knowledge. After observing the herb garden for a while, they were able to find many clues. An hour later, the 4 elders flew back to Duanmu Huang and reported the clues they had found. According to the situation on the battlefield, there was only one intruder. The intruder's strength should only be at the divine origin stage, but he used a magic weapon. According to the aura left on the battlefield, the magic weapon should be an ice magic weapon. There is still a lot of hot magma left on the scorched earth ruins on the left. It should be caused by the earth fire. The firebird of heavenly wind has been killed. With its strength, only a soul-refining stage expert or a soul-level magic weapon can kill it. Duanmu Huang also said expressionlessly in a deep voice, "The array guarding the longevity garden is a soul-level array. The intruder found the weak point hidden deep in the ground. He probably used a magic weapon to break the array's weak point and tear a hole." Although the crowd had found many useful clues, they still could not find out who the intruder was. They only knew that the intruder was a man in a white robe. They did not know the intruder's age, appearance, body characteristics, and so on. Duanmu Huang led the 4 elders back to the palace at the entrance of the herb garden and asked the deacons about the results of their questioning. The various deacons interrogated many guards, odd job workers, and pharmacists, and had a clearer understanding of the battle situation at that time. However, they still did not know the identity of the white-robed expert and did not find any useful clues. At this moment, a divine origin stage guard commander flew to Duanmu Huang as fast as lightning and reported the news with a voice full of fear. "Master, there is more news. Something happened in the herb garden." The sudden news silenced everyone on the spot. Duanmu Huang, the elders, and the deacons all stiffened. Their eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. Countless people cursed angrily. Their faces were ashen and their fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. They wanted to cut the intruder into pieces. Duanmu Huang did not lose his composure on the spot. His expression was as cold as an iceberg as usual. "He he he." As expected, the spiritual herb garden was also destroyed. Then his next target would be the greenwood garden. What a vicious bastard! He actually destroyed 3 of our herb gardens in one night. Does he want to completely destroy our Duanmu clan? Duanmu Huang laughed coldly. He quickly calmed down and made a series of arrangements. When he found out that the longevity garden was destroyed, he was already extremely angry. Now, even when he found out that the herb garden was destroyed, he was not so angry anymore. In the next 4 hours, Duanmu Huang and the elders repeatedly investigated the longevity garden. They used various clues to almost reconstruct the scene when the herb garden was destroyed. However, they still could not identify the identity of the mysterious expert. The white-robed expert seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Duanmu Huang and the 4 elders were extremely angry and anxious. However, they had no clue. Helpless, Duanmu Huang ordered the soul-herding hall to go out in full force and do their best to investigate the clues. Just as Duanmu Huang and the rest were at their wits' end, a guard commander suddenly rushed over to report the news. Reporting to the Patriarch, there is a middle-aged expert outside the herb garden who calls himself Lu Yunjinren. He says that he has an important matter to discuss with you. Lu Yunjinren? Duanmu Huang frowned and thought for a while. His tone was cold as he shouted angrily, "I have never heard of this person. What kind of Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to see me? Ask him to scram. If he dares to pester me, kill him." Duanmu Huang was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. However, someone came to see him. How could he be happy? However, the guard commander added another sentence. Chapter 687. The entrance to the Garden of Longevity was a 100-meter-high stone gate. There were 18 guards guarding the gate, and outside the gate was a flat grassland. 2 middle-aged men, one tall and one short, were standing on the grassland, waiting quietly. The tall and thin middle-aged man was wearing a robe embroidered with cloud patterns. He wore a feathered crown and held a silver horsetail whisk in his hand. He looked like a hermit. The middle-aged man next to him was short and fat. He wore a black robe and was dressed as a guard. Although they seemed to be waiting quietly for their summons. But in fact, the 2 of them were secretly communicating with each other through spiritual sense. The black-robed guard asked calmly, "Demon King, are you really going to talk to the Duanmu Huang face to face?" The middle-aged man frowned and scolded him sternly, "Shueli, remember to call me. Oh no, call me Lu Yunjinren. Don't let the cat out of the bag." The black-robed guard quickly said, "Demon, Sir, although we have taken over the bodies of 2 humans and used a secret technique to disguise ourselves as humans, the Duanmu Huang is a powerhouse in the soul refining stage. If he sees through your disguise, your life will be in danger. Lu Yunjinren said confidently, "Don't worry, my secret technique has been perfected. There will be no flaws. Besides, the Duanmu Huang must be furious with the upheaval of the Duanmu family and only care about finding clues to the murderer. He must be overjoyed to suddenly know about the murderer. Why would he think so much? As long as my plan succeeds, I will be able to cause chaos in the world. It will be worth risking my life." Shueli was shocked and confused. He quickly asked, "Sir, isn't your plan to use the Duanmu family to deal with Ji Tianxing? How can you cause chaos in the world?" Lu Yunjinren said impatiently, I have great foresight. How can you understand the situation that I see and think about? I don't have time to explain it to you now. If the plan succeeds, I will tell you the reason." Shueli was still worried and asked again, "Sir, how can you be so sure that the Duanmu Huang hasn't found out that the murderer is Ji Tianxing?" Taoist Master Flowing Cloud explained with a playful tone, "Ever since we came to Zhong Province, we have only done one thing, and that is to keep an eye on Ji Tianxing day and night. Therefore, we know his whereabouts like the back of our hands. On the other hand, the Duanmu clan had many matters to attend to and had many enemies. It was impossible for them to keep an eye on Ji Tianxing all the time. Therefore, they definitely did not know all of Ji Tianxing's whereabouts and movements. The Duanmu Huang would never have imagined that Ji Tianxing would be so audacious as to destroy their herb garden." The guard, Shueli, was stunned for a moment, then suddenly understood. His eyes were filled with admiration. "My lord is indeed wise and far-sighted. This subordinate wishes milord's plan a success, and all your wishes come true." Taoist Master Flowing Cloud nodded slightly and said, "All right, it's too early to talk about this now. Wait until I meet the Duanmu Huang face to face. In order to avoid being exposed, you don't have to follow me in later. Stay here and wait." Shueli quickly nodded and said through telepathy, "This subordinate obeys. I await your good news." Not long after, a guard commander walked out of the gate of the Longevity Garden. He came in front of Taoist Master Flowing Cloud and Shueli and said calmly, "Taoist Master Flowing Cloud, my master invites you in. Please follow me." After that, the guard commander led Taoist Master Flowing Cloud through the gate and into the Longevity Garden. About 15 minutes later, the guard commander led Taoist Master Flowing Cloud into the main hall of a palace. In the spacious and bright main hall, there stood 4 Duanmu clan elders in purple robes. The Duanmu Huang had already retracted his murderous aura and his pupils had returned to normal. He was sitting on the throne at the head of the hall. When Taoist Master Flowing Cloud stepped into the main hall, the gazes of the Duanmu Huang and the 4 elders all landed on him, carefully sizing him up. Taoist Master Flowing Cloud felt everyone's gaze and his heart tightened slightly. He was a little nervous, worried that he would be exposed. Fortunately, he had perfectly concealed his aura and did not reveal any abnormalities or flaws. He walked to the middle of the main hall with a calm expression and stood still. He bowed respectfully to the Duanmu Huang. "I am Mu Flowing Cloud. Greetings to clan leader Duanmu." The Duanmu Huang retracted his scrutinizing gaze and nodded slightly. "You may rise, Taoist Master Flowing Cloud." Only then did Taoist Master Flowing Cloud raise his head and look calmly at the Duanmu Huang. Although the Duanmu Huang's expression was calm and composed, he could see that the Duanmu Huang's heart was burning with anger and anxiety. This gave him more confidence and made him look forward to his plan. The Duanmu Huang did not beat around the bush and asked straightforwardly, "Taoist Master Flowing Cloud, do you know who the culprit who destroyed the herb garden is?" "That's right." Taoist Master Flowing Cloud nodded without hesitation. The Duanmu Huang frowned and looked at him with a sharp gaze. He said in a dignified tone, "I have yet to find the culprit. How would you know? Don't tell me that you happened to pass by the longevity garden and saw the culprit destroying the herb garden. Clearly, the Duanmu Huang did not trust Taoist Master Flowing Cloud. Even if he had a glimmer of hope and allowed Taoist Master Flowing Cloud to meet him, he still kept his guard up. Taoist Master Flowing Cloud revealed a playful smile and explained without hesitation. Clan leader Duanmu, you must be joking. I did not pass by this place by chance. I have been following the culprit and saw him destroy the longevity garden with my own eyes. Hearing this, the Duanmu Huang raised his eyebrows and asked doubtfully, You have been following the culprit? Why? Taoist Master Flowing Cloud cupped his hands and said with a serious expression, To tell you the truth, clan leader Duanmu, I am from the Myriad Spirit Tower. I have recently received a bounty mission, so I have been following that white-robed youth. I did not expect that white-robed youth to be so daring and scheming to destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden. I guessed that clan leader Duanmu would be furious, so I wanted to do you a favor and form a good relationship with the Duanmu family. That is why I have come to tell you the identity of that white-robed youth. Hearing the 3 words Myriad Spirit Tower, the Duanmu Huang nodded slightly and vaguely understood something. The 4 elders in the main hall also looked at each other. Taoist Master Flowing Cloud's vigilance dissipated. The Myriad Spirit Tower was one of the top powerhouses in the Middle State. It was an assassin organization that struck fear in people. Across the entire Tianxian continent, the Myriad Spirit Tower was the undisputed leader among the countless assassin organizations. Anyone below the spirit refinement stage could not escape the assassination of the Myriad Spirit Tower. Even elite warriors at the spirit refinement stage had been successfully assassinated by the Myriad Spirit Tower. Of course, the Duanmu Huang knew that the strength of the Myriad Spirit Tower could not be underestimated. He looked at Taoist Master Flowing Cloud with a burning gaze and asked in a low voice, You are an assassin from the Myriad Spirit Tower? Who is the white-robed youth that you want to assassinate? Taoist Master Flowing Cloud nodded with a smile and said with a playful tone, That white-robed youth is not only my assassination target, he is also someone that clan leader Duanmu hates to the bone. Chapter 688. Ji Tianxing? How could it be him? Duanmu Huang was stunned on the spot. He let out a cry of disbelief. The 4 patriarchs in the hall all changed their expressions. They were shocked and couldn't believe it. They started to whisper to each other. Duanmu Huang frowned and stared at Venerable Lu Yun. He said in a deep voice, Ji Tianxing is just an ant in Sky Origin Stage 3. How could he break into the longevity garden and destroy our herb garden? Venerable Lu Yun, you should know the consequences of lying to me. The 4 patriarchs quieted down and stared at Venerable Lu Yun. They wanted to see how he would explain. Venerable Lu Yun was still calm and composed. He smiled playfully. I knew you would react like this. It is just as unbelievable as when I saw Ji Tianxing break into the longevity garden, kill the ancient demonic beast, and destroy the herb garden. He waved the silver horsetail whisk in his hand and said slowly, Family leader Duanmu, you should know that Ji Tianxing was able to fight Qianshan Jinwu to a draw, and that's why he became the Tianxian region lord. It means that although he is only in Sky Origin Stage 3, his real combat ability is comparable to a Sky Origin Stage cultivator. Besides, he has the region lord's golden seal, which is a soul-level magic treasure. It can double his combat ability. Duanmu Huang narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, So you're saying that Ji Tianxing was able to break into the herb garden and kill the firebird because of the domain lord's golden seal? No. Venerable Lu Yun shook his head and said with a smile, Ji Tianxing doesn't only have the golden seal. He also has an ice attribute magic treasure, the Ice Dragon Hammer. The Ice Dragon Hammer is the most precious treasure of the demon clan. It is made from the horn of the Ice Dragon Rhinoceros. It can restrain the power of the firebird. Ji Tianxing had relied on the might of the Ice Dragon Hammer to kill the ancient beast, the Firebird of Heavenly Wind. I believe that the Duanmu clan's patriarch has already made his judgment on this point and should know that what I said is true. After the longevity garden was destroyed, half of it turned into scorched earth and ruins. There were still remnants of magma, which was caused by the heavenly wind firebird's heaven and earth spirit fire. As for the other half of the battlefield, it turned into frozen ground. That was caused by the power of the ice dragon hammer. Duanmu Huang and the 4 elders had already carefully examined the ruins of the battlefield. They also concluded that Ji Tianxing had used an ice-type magical weapon. Therefore, when they heard Taoist Master Lu Yun's words, they immediately believed him. If family head Duanmu is still unwilling to believe me, then there's no harm in looking at this. After speaking, Taoist Lu Yun took out a fist-sized crystal ball from his spatial ring. Without a doubt, this was a photographic crystal. Taoist Master Flowing Cloud inserted a strand of quintessential essence into the crystal ball. The crystal immediately lit up with a silver light, forming a silver light screen. A scene appeared on the light screen. In the scene, there was a dusky sky. There was a fire bird that was as large as a mountain. It was currently fighting with a white-robed youth in the night sky. The fire bird continuously released flames that covered the sky and earth. The white-robed youth held a jade-white bone hammer in his hand, releasing an endless amount of icy white light. A man and a bird fought fiercely in the night sky. The aftermath of the battle poured down onto the ground, instantly collapsing the herb mountain and turning the entire mountain range into a vast expanse of white glaciers. Seeing this scene, Duanmu Huang and the 4 elders no longer had any doubts. They all revealed incomparably furious expressions. After a moment, the scene disappeared. Taoist Master Lu Yun then kept the photographic crystal with a smile. Duanmu Huang frowned and thought for a moment. He opened his mouth and asked him, Taoist Master Lu Yun, since the Ice Dragon Hammer is the Demon Clan's treasure, how did it end up in Ji Tianxing's hands? The smile on Taoist Master Lu Yun's face became even more playful. Could it be that clan leader Duanmu has never thought that Ji Tianxing was originally a lowly commoner? What right did he have to enter the monarch mansion, become the Tianqian region lord, and even become a peerless genius whose name shook the world? If he didn't have a powerful backer and background, how would he dare to kill the Duanmu clan's eldest son, Duanmu Yulong, in front of everyone? Hearing his words, Duanmu Huang's expression instantly changed. His eyes surged with an eerie cold light. You mean, Ji Tianxing colluded with the Demon Clan and has the Demon Clan as his backer? That's why he was able to enter the monarch mansion in one step and dared to offend our Duanmu clan so unscrupulously? The 4 elders' expressions also changed, revealing a look of sudden realization. Taoist Master Lu Yun smiled and nodded. That's right. The fact that he was able to obtain the Demon Clan's treasure, the Ice Dragon Hammer, is the most direct and most powerful proof. At this moment, Second Elder cupped his hands and reported, Patriarch, what Taoist Master Lu Yun said is true. Previously, the Soul-Herding Hall also investigated and found that Ji Tianxing and the Demon Clan's Prince Kuan Wu have close ties. Their relationship is not shallow. Duanmu Huang instantly had no more doubts. His knuckles cracked as he clenched his fist. His eyes also surged with soaring killing intent. Ji Tianxing, it's actually you, you bastard. You first killed my son, and now you've destroyed my Duanmu clan's herb garden. You and I cannot live under the same sky. So what if you have the Demon Clan as your backer? I'll catch you very soon and cut you into 1,000 pieces. I'll extract your soul and torture it for 1,000 years. Duanmu Huang roared a few words in a venomous tone. It took him a while to calm down. He looked coldly at Taoist Master Lu Yun and said in a deep voice, Taoist Master Lu Yun, the reason why you took the initiative to tell me this is because you're afraid of the Demon Clan behind him. You don't dare to assassinate him, so you want to borrow my Duanmu clan's power to get rid of him, right? Taoist Master Lu Yun nodded without hesitation and said in a playful tone, "That's right. Patriarch Duanmu is indeed wise. Although I really want to complete the mission and earn a high reward, I don't want to suffer the revenge of the Demon Clan's experts. That's why I told Patriarch Duanmu the truth. Ji Tianxing is our common target and enemy. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I believe that Patriarch Duanmu will definitely tear him into pieces, right?" Duanmu Huang stared at Taoist Master Lu Yun and nodded with a cold smile. "Very good. This is the result that both you and I wanted. You're very smart. The Duanmu clan owes you a favor. You can leave now." Since Taoist Master Lu Yun had achieved his goal, he bade farewell and left in satisfaction. Although it seemed like he was using the Duanmu clan, he was using them openly. However, in Duanmu Huang's eyes, this was not about who was using who. It was a win-win situation. Taoist Master Lu Yun did not need to make a move to make Ji Tianxing die without a burial ground. The Duanmu clan was worried that they would not be able to find the culprit. Now that the truth was out, they could immediately start their revenge. After Taoist Lu Yun left, Duanmu Huang didn't hesitate any longer and immediately ordered in a low voice. "Second elder, third elder, both of you make a move yourselves and immediately capture Ji Tianxing for me. Unless he's hiding in the imperial court or the monarch residence, as long as he shows his face in Zhongzhou, you don't have to worry about anyone and just take action. Whoever dares to stop my Duanmu clan from taking revenge will be my Duanmu clan's mortal enemy." Obviously, Duanmu Huang was completely enraged. He did not care about anything else for revenge. Chapter 689. Lu Yunjinren smiled as he left the longevity garden. Everything was going according to his plan, which was why he was in a good mood. When he walked out of the longevity garden, Xueli, the guard at the gate, immediately came up to him. Seeing his smiling face, Xueli hurriedly asked, "My lord, is it done?" "Humph. With this king personally taking action, of course everything will go smoothly." Taoist Master Lu Yun revealed a complacent sneer. Seeing that Xueli was about to ask again, he quickly said, "This is not the place to talk, let's leave first." With that, Reverend Lu Yun left the longevity garden with his guard, Xueli, and flew away as fast as lightning. 12 hours later, the two left the mango forest and landed on a towering mountain. The two stood in the forest at the top of the mountain. Seeing that no one was following them, they used their power to remove their disguises and showed their true faces. Swoosh! Xueli's body flashed with a black fog, and he immediately turned into a 3-meter-tall, burly demon clan man. Lu Yunjinren's body flashed with the demon fog and changed back to his original appearance. He was a middle-aged man with a thin body like a bamboo pole, wearing a blood-red robe. He had waist-long blood-red hair tied into 3 braids. His skin was pale and bloodless. His flat mouth revealed a few fangs, which were still dripping with blood. At first glance, he looked like a corpse that had just crawled out of a grave. If Ji Tianxing was here, he would be able to recognize that this demon clan man was the blood-winged demon king, Xueqian Jiang. Xueqian Jiang twisted his neck and stretched his limbs. He cursed angrily. Living in the corpse of that human reptile really made me feel uncomfortable and disgusted. Fortunately, this king's plan succeeded. Everything was worth it. Xueli stood respectfully to the side and asked doubtfully, "Your Majesty, please tell me. What is your plan to create chaos in the world?" Xueqian Jiang smiled coldly and said slowly, "I lied and said that I was an assassin from the 10,000 Spirits Tower and showed the image recording crystal to Duanmu Huang so that he would know that the culprit was Ji Tianxing. Furthermore, this king will let them know that Ji Tianxing is using the most precious treasure of the demon clan, the Ice Dragon Hammer. Duanmu Huang is certain that Ji Tianxing's backer is the Yao clan. That's why he dared to kill his son and destroy his herb garden." Xueli frowned and asked doubtfully, "Demon King, Even if the Duanmu Huang believes that the demon tribe is Ji Tianxing's backer, everything Ji Tianxing did was ordered by the demon tribe. But no matter how much the Duanmu Huang hated the demon clan, they couldn't possibly start a war with the demon clan. At most, he can only kill Ji Tianxing to vent his anger, right? Xue Qianjiang glanced at Xueli and sneered. What do you know? That's right, no matter how strong the Duanmu clan is, they wouldn't dare to fall out with the demon clan, let alone cause chaos in the world. But what you don't know is that the Duanmu clan has a backer, someone from the human imperial court. If I'm not wrong, the Duanmu Huang can't deal with the demon clan and will definitely report the news to the imperial court. Xueli was suddenly enlightened. He nodded in admiration and said, Your Majesty, you're really powerful. This move is really brilliant. By doing this, you can provoke the hatred between the human imperial court and the demon imperial court, causing the human clan and the demon clan to fight each other. If the human clan and the demon clan are not united, there will be conflicts and disputes, and the world will be in chaos. The demon clan will have a chance to take advantage of this and achieve great things. Xue Qianjiang nodded and sneered. That's right, this is my plan. I want to stir up the world and cause the human clan and the demon clan to fight each other. Although the hatred of the Duanmu clan is not enough to cause the human clan and the demon clan to break apart and start fighting each other, this is a line of fire. But this is a line of fire. By igniting this line of fire, this king can gradually deepen the hatred between the two sides, implicating more factions. When the conflict between the two sides deepens and more forces are involved, it will no longer be able to be resolved. Xueli nodded repeatedly, his eyes full of expectation. Xue Qianjiang sneered and his eyes became more and more sinister. He continued, During this period, we have to pay attention to the situation at all times and add fuel to the fire at the appropriate time to create more hatred. When the world is in chaos, the demon clan can take advantage of the situation and develop and grow stronger. This is a great contribution, even greater than our contribution of capturing Ji Tianxing. Xueli's face was full of expectation. He bowed and said, Your Majesty's wisdom really amazes me. When the human clan and the demon clan break apart and fight each other, you will be the greatest hero of our clan. Xue Qianjiang nodded with satisfaction and left the mountain peak with Xueli, flying away as fast as lightning. Unknowingly, a whole day passed. In the middle of the night, Ji Tianxing returned to the monarch mansion and returned to the Tianxing palace. After 2 days of hard work and continuous fighting, he was in an extremely sorry state. His white robe was stained with dust and he looked travel-worn. His injuries were still very serious and he only had 30% of his true core strength left. He was already an arrow at the end of its flight. His breath and face were very weak. Not only were his cheeks and lips pale, but even his eyes were dim. But in his opinion, it was all worth it. He had successfully destroyed the 100-flower garden, the spiritual grass garden and the longevity garden, destroying 80% of the Duanmu clan's medicinal reserves. The Duanmu clan suffered a great loss and suffered the worst blow in hundreds of years. He believed that the Duanmu clan's industries and businesses in the central region would soon be destroyed. The Duanmu clan's power would also plummet and they would not be able to deal with the Yun clan for 10 years. Even though Ji Tianxing was exhausted, he was still very excited at the thought of this. After returning to his residence, he could not wait to enter the secret chamber and consume the elixir and began to heal his injuries. Little Black Dragon and Qian, you had also consumed a lot of energy and were quietly cultivating to recover their strength. Unknowingly, a day and night passed. When night fell on the second day, Ji Tianxing's true core strength had recovered by 80% and his injuries were mostly healed. He was prepared to continue cultivating and recuperate for a few days. But at this moment, a guard captain rushed to the door of the secret chamber and respectfully reported the news. Reporting to Domain Lord, His Majesty the Son of Heaven has arrived at the Tianqing Palace and said that he has something to discuss with you and is waiting for you in the main hall. Hearing the guard captain's report, Ji Tianqing hurriedly ended his cultivation and opened his eyes. He frowned and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. Why would Long Yunxiao come to find me? Could it be that he already knew that the Duanmu clan's herb garden was destroyed and came to find me because of this? Chapter 690. When Ji Tianqing rushed to the guest hall, he saw a young man in a golden robe standing in the hall. The young man in the golden robe was tall and straight. He had a handsome face and a noble temperament. He was the Son of Heaven, Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao's back was facing the door as he stared at the painting on the wall. He was staring at the mountain river diagram in the painting, deep in thought. Ji Tianqing walked into the main hall and stood behind Long Yunxiao, greeting him. May I know why the Son of Heaven is here tonight? Long Yunxiao came back to his senses and turned to look at Ji Tianqing, sizing him up calmly. Seeing that he was safe and sound, Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows and said in a playful tone, You caused such a big commotion, but you're actually unharmed. How incredible! Ji Tianqing vaguely guessed something, but he didn't show it on his face. He pretended to be puzzled and asked, Son of Heaven, what do you mean? Long Yunxiao glanced around and saw that there was no one else in the hall except for him and Ji Tianqing. He then said with a serious expression, All right, I won't keep you in suspense. Don't play dumb. Let me ask you, the Duanmu family's 3 herb gardens were destroyed and they suffered heavy losses. Was it your doing? Ji Tianqing neither admitted nor denied it. He looked at him calmly and asked, Son of Heaven came to find me in the middle of the night just to ask about this? Long Yunxiao saw that his attitude was a little vigilant. He frowned and said in a deep voice, I'm not here to seek justice for the Duanmu family. In recent years, the Duanmu family has been acting arrogantly and wantonly dealing with the Yun family. Their ambitions are clear as day. You actually dared to do such an earth-shattering feat at this time and caused the Duanmu family to suffer a heavy blow. I can't believe it. I don't have any opinions about your actions. I even admire you. However, the Duanmu family's vitality has been greatly damaged and the balance between the 3 great families has been broken. This is something that the imperial court doesn't want to see. Ji Tianqing understood what he meant. He nodded and said calmly, I don't know what the imperial court thinks. I only do what I think is right. Only do what you think is right? Hearing this, Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. He took a deep look at Ji Tianqing and thought to himself, This guy's style of doing things is to do things his own way, without any taboos, completely ignoring the views and opinions of others. This point coincides with this monarch's thoughts. For some reason, the more Long Yunxiao understood Ji Tianqing, the more he liked him. Long Yunxiao knew that it was useless to say more, so he said to Ji Tianqing, Now that such a big thing has happened, the Duanmu clan will definitely go crazy for revenge and kill you at all costs. In the following period of time, you have to be careful. If you have any trouble that you can't solve, don't hesitate to look for me. I will definitely lend you a helping hand. After saying that, Long Yunxiao cupped his hands and took his leave. Ji Tianqing nodded, cupped his hands and said, Many thanks. Then he sent Long Yunxiao out of the hall. After sending Long Yunxiao away, he returned to the secret room and continued to cultivate. No matter what happened, he always placed cultivation as his #1 priority. The Duanmu clan's herb garden was destroyed, and the situation in the central state would definitely change greatly. There would definitely be more grudges and vendettas in the future. Therefore, Ji Tianqing urgently needed to increase his strength, so that he could withstand the storm in the future and settle down. Time passed quietly and 3 days passed in a flash. In these 3 days, the central state could be said to be in turmoil. There was a sensational and incomparably shocking news that was crazily spreading in the central state. In the depths of the Mangu forest, The 3 herb gardens that the Duanmu clan had built with all their strength were all destroyed overnight. It was said that a mysterious expert attacked during the night and turned the 3 herb gardens into scorched earth and ruins. Not even a blade of grass grew. Even the ancient mystical beast that guarded the herb gardens of the Duanmu clan was blasted into pieces. Anyone who had heard of the Duanmu clan knew that the Duanmu clan was an ancient elixir family that controlled half of the herb business in the central state. The main reason why the Duanmu clan could prosper for thousands of years without declining was because of the mango forest and the 4 herb gardens. The 4 herb gardens could provide an endless supply of herbs, allowing the Duanmu clan to control the lifeline of the central state's elixir market. Now, the 3 herb gardens were destroyed, and the temporary storage of herbs was also destroyed. This was definitely a fatal blow to the Duanmu clan. Anyone with a bit of common sense knew that the Duanmu clan had lost the support of sufficient herbs. The clan's property and business would be greatly affected, and their power would definitely plummet. When this news spread, it immediately spread to every city and village in the central state. Even the common people were discussing it. While everyone was shocked and in disbelief, they were also very puzzled. Who exactly was that mysterious expert who destroyed the 3 herb gardens with one hand? How powerful was he to be able to enter the 3 herb gardens so easily, kill countless experts and guards, and even kill the ancient mystical beast? How powerful was his backer that he dared to declare war on the Duanmu clan? Was it the other 2 great families or some top force? He used such a ruthless method to take the lives of the Duanmu clan in one move. Was he not afraid of the Duanmu clan's crazy revenge? In an instant, the common people discussed endlessly and made all kinds of wild guesses. In the streets and alleys, all kinds of rumors and slanders were circulating. Everyone had different opinions, and no one could come to a conclusion. The common people did not know the truth. Even if they made wild guesses and discussed, they could not come to a conclusion. However, the various great clans and sects of the central continent had a more thorough understanding of the situation than the common people. The experts of the various forces all believed that the mysterious expert's strength was extraordinary, and that he had the support of a powerful family or the imperial court. Otherwise, he would not dare to be so arrogant. Everyone understood that the Duanmu clan had met a strong enemy this time. Not only was the other party powerful, he had no scruples and his methods were very ruthless. After the Duanmu clan suffered heavy losses, the other party would definitely make a follow-up move. He would take the opportunity to hit them when they were down and completely destroy the Duanmu clan. When the experts of the various forces analyzed this point, some people were worried for the Duanmu clan, but more people were gloating over their misfortune. Those powerful families and sects that had grudges with the Duanmu clan were wild with joy and were ready to make a move. The mysterious expert did what they wanted to do but did not dare to do. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them. They seized the opportunity to add fuel to the fire and take revenge on the Duanmu clan. Therefore, many powerful families and sects were mobilizing their forces and manpower to secretly take revenge on the Duanmu clan. On the central state, it looked peaceful on the surface, but in fact, there were turbulent undercurrents. Countless forces heard the news and were dragged into it. Chapter 691. The people of Middle State discussed incessantly, and rumors spread all over the place. Various factions took action secretly, launching attacks on the Duanmu family's industries and businesses to take revenge. Undercurrents surged in Middle State, and the Duanmu family instantly fell into an abyss of suffering. They were in chaos and in a sorry state. The Duanmu family was in chaos internally, and everyone was fearful and uneasy. Many rumors spread, and there were even people who secretly fled. All the elders and deacons were overwrought with work, and they were physically and mentally exhausted. However, the 3 destroyed herb gardens had to be restored, and countless industries and businesses had to be maintained. They also had to think of a way to solve the shortage of medicinal herbs. Yet, these problems were all very thorny, and could not be solved in a few days or months. In addition, the various factions in Middle State took revenge, causing the Duanmu family to be attacked from all sides. Their situation became more and more dangerous, and it was difficult to move forward. Very soon, the Duanmu family, this enormous mountain, started to fall apart and disintegrate. Originally, the Duanmu family had spirit medicine pavilions and many shops in the hundreds of cities in Middle State. In a short 3 days, the spirit medicine pavilions and shops in the various cities all closed down, and they could no longer operate and trade normally. Those factions that cooperated with the Duanmu family to operate the pill business were also seriously affected, and could not maintain it. Many small factions that relied on the Duanmu family collapsed and disintegrated. Those factions that could still struggle at death's door had no choice but to give up on cooperating with the Duanmu family and turn to find new backers to seek a way to survive. The Duanmu family, this big tree, fell, and they actually fell into the state of monkeys scattering when the tree fell. From an ancient family that countless factions fawned over, they became a run-down family that could not even protect themselves. Seeing the Duanmu family's encounter and situation, not only were the various wealthy factions deeply moved, the ordinary people also understood that the Duanmu family was finished this time. The Duanmu family that fell from the clouds to the abyss would have no chance to make a comeback. There were too many wealthy factions eyeing the Duanmu family and would absolutely not give the Duanmu family time to recover. Those factions would take the opportunity to ruthlessly trample on the Duanmu family, causing the Duanmu family to fall into a hopeless situation of eternal damnation. Deep into the night was dark. In the Duanmu residence 100 miles north of Greenwood City, it was supposed to be in a deep sleep and silent. However, the Duanmu family was still in chaos and anxiety these few days. Even in the middle of the night, the residence was still brightly lit, and there were flickering figures moving back and forth. In the depths of the courtyard, there were even sounds of discussion from the female servants and the cries of children, causing the atmosphere to be rather sorrowful. In the patriarch's study, Duanmu Huang was sitting on a large chair in front of the table, resting with his eyes closed. His aura was a little weak, and his face was very ugly. His eyes were bloodshot, and his whole body was emitting a strong evil aura. It had been an entire 4 days, and he had almost not slept a wink. In order to stabilize the Duanmu clan situation and the people's hearts, he was already exhausted. At this moment, closing his eyes for a moment was already a rare moment of relaxation. But even with his eyes closed, his mind was still thinking about the family business, and he couldn't rest at all. At this moment, a guard commander quickly walked into the study. He held a secret letter in both hands, bowed, and reporting to Patriarch, "Someone just sent this secret letter, and asked this subordinate to deliver it to you personally." Duanmu Huang opened his eyes. He stretched out his hand and beckoned, and the secret letter was taken into his hand. He opened the letter and glanced at it. Suddenly, his spirit was shaken. The tiredness and weariness in his eyes were swept away. A bright light flashed in his eyes. "Leave." Duanmu Huang ordered the guard commander to leave the study. After he lowered his head and finished reading the secret letter, a glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. He murmured in a low voice, "The great Lord summoned me for a meeting at this time. He must have heard about the herb garden. I was just worried about not having a strong helper. The great Lord's secret letter came at the right time. Maybe our Duanmu clan will be saved." Thinking of this, Duanmu Huang quickly put away the secret letter, got up, and walked out of the study. He gave a few words of advice to the 2 elders, then left the Duanmu residence alone. He turned into a stream of light and flew into the night sky, flying towards the north. After all, he was a powerful cultivator in the soul-refining realm. His flying speed was unbelievably fast. It was not something an ordinary cultivator in the sky origin realm could compare to. A few hours later, the long night had passed and dawn was about to arrive. At this time, Duanmu Huang had already left the mango forest. He stopped on top of a mountain 100 miles away from Zhongzhou City. In the mountain range there was a towering mountain that was thousands of feet high. On top of the mountain, there was an exquisite and luxurious manor. There were several magnificent palaces and rows of houses and buildings. Swoosh! Duanmu Huang descended from the sky and landed outside the manor's gate. At the gate, in addition to a dozen ordinary guards, there was a middle-aged man dressed as a butler waiting quietly. Seeing Duanmu Huang coming, the middle-aged butler quickly cupped his hands and bowed, leading him into the manor's gate. The two of them passed through a spacious courtyard, crossed a few corridors, and entered a palace. The middle-aged butler led Duanmu Huang into the depths of the palace, and stopped in front of a secret room. "Family head Duanmu, the great lord is waiting for you," the middle-aged butler said in a serious tone and extended his hand to make a "please" gesture. Duanmu Huang nodded. Without saying anything, he pushed open the stone door of the secret room and walked in. As soon as he entered the secret room, he saw two figures standing in the dark room. One of them was tall and wore a long golden robe, a purple cloak, and a crystal mask on his face. This person exuded a noble and confident aura. He stood with his back to the door of the secret room. He was staring at the array on the wall, thinking about something silently. Without a doubt, this person was the Great Lord. The second person in the secret room was a handsome man wearing a blue robe. He had a slim figure and looked more beautiful than a woman. This person held a string of prayer beads in his left hand and a green jade fan in his right. He was dressed like a gentleman. Duanmu Huang was not unfamiliar with him. He knew that he was the eldest son of the Murong family, Murong Lingfeng. When Murong Lingfeng saw that Duanmu Huang had arrived, he hurriedly bowed and said with a slight smile, "Lingfeng greets uncle." Duanmu Huang hurriedly collected his thoughts and nodded at him in greeting. Then, Duanmu Huang cupped his hands and bowed to the Great Lord. Duanmu Huang greets the Great Lord. With Duanmu Huang's strength and status, he only needed to be polite to the Great Lord. Of course, he would not be respectful to the Great Lord like his son, Duanmu Yulong. After all, he represented the Duanmu family and had a cooperative relationship with the Great Lord. The Great Lord nodded and said in an androgynous voice, "Family head Duanmu, thank you for coming here personally." Duanmu Huang cupped his hands and said in a deep voice, "Now is a critical time. Since the Great Lord has something important to discuss, this old man must come personally." The Great Lord only nodded slightly and did not say anything. Chapter 692. After the three of them exchanged pleasantries, the secret room quietened down. Duanmu Huang and Murong Lingfeng knew that the Honorable Lord had summoned them in the middle of the night because he had something important to discuss. The two of them stared at the Honorable Lord's back and waited silently. At this moment the Honorable Lord spoke. "I have been cultivating in seclusion for several months and only came out a few days ago. I never thought that so many things would happen in these few months. Duanmu Yulong was killed, Ji Tianxing became the Heavenly Stellar Region Lord and destroyed 3 herb gardens, causing the Duanmu family to suffer a great loss. He, a lowly commoner kid from the mountains of the south, is actually able to stir up the winds and clouds of the central continent and create such a huge mess." The Honorable Lord's tone was low and stern. His cold laughter contained a monstrous, killing intent. Hearing him mention what had happened in these few months, Duanmu Huang secretly gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with hatred and killing intent. "Honorable Lord, we have underestimated that little bastard Ji Tianxing too much. If we had used all our strength to deal with him, he would have been crushed into pieces and turned into ashes. It's a pity that he hid too deeply and rose too quickly, catching everyone off guard. After these few months of fighting, I have finally figured out his background." Hearing this, the Honorable Lord furrowed his brows and said in a low voice, "Ji Tianxing's background? Could it be that he has another identity? Let's hear it." Duanmu Huang's face was solemn as he said, Ji Tianxing rose so quickly. He first entered the monarch manor and then became the heavenly stellar region lord. He even dared to start a war with my Duanmu family because he has a powerful backer. He hid it very well in the past, but this time when he destroyed the longevity garden, he exposed his background. His backer is the demon imperial court. Hearing this, the Honorable Lord and Murong Lingfeng were stunned and revealed a look of disbelief. Before the Honorable Lord spoke, Murong Lingfeng asked doubtfully, Uncle Duanmu, how could Ji Tianxing have the demon imperial court as his backer? Duanmu Huang narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, he used the ice dragon hammer when he destroyed the longevity garden and killed the firebird. The ice dragon hammer was the most precious treasure of the demon clan, and it just so happened to be able to restrain the firebird of heavenly wind. Furthermore, Ji Tianxing has a close relationship with the demon Prince Kunwu. There was no need for him to say anything more. The High Lord and Murong Lingfeng understood the connection. The High Lord's eyes turned as cold as ice as he muttered, so that's how it is. I didn't expect him to be related to the demon imperial court. I really underestimated him. Murong Lingfeng hesitated for a moment before saying with a frown, Lord, I've been secretly observing Ji Tianxing for the past few months. I realized that he and the Son of Heaven, Long Yunxiao, didn't have a grudge against each other like the rumors said. Instead, they interacted frequently and seemed to have a close relationship. Not only that, Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao also had a close relationship. The two of them were originally martial sister and brother. I'm afraid that Ji Tianxing also has some connections with the Yun family. Hearing this, the High Lord and Duanmu Huang both frowned with a complicated look in their eyes. The High Lord sneered and said in a deep voice, He, Ji Tianxing, this brat is really inconceivable. On one hand, he's on good terms with the demon prince, on the other hand, he's on good terms with Long Yunxiao. He even has some connections with the Yun family. He's really benefiting from both sides. No wonder a lowly commoner like him could rise so quickly. It turns out that he has 3 big backers to help him. However, it's useless no matter how much he tries to rope in backers. Since I know his background, I won't underestimate him anymore. His death is coming soon. The High Lord continued with a disdainful tone, Long Yunxiao is also a useless piece of trash. Everyone knows that he's infatuated with Yun Yao, but he chosen Suwen to be his heavenly consort and let Ji Tianxing snatch Yun Yao away. As a man, he can't even conquer his own sweetheart and has close ties with his love rival. He's really shameless. He's a disgrace to the imperial court. Murong Lingfeng frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he said, High Lord, I've observed for a few months and found that the relationship between Ji Tianxing, Yun Yao, and Long Yunxiao seems to be a little complicated. I'm thinking, did we all misjudge Long Yunxiao? Did he give up on Yun Yao because he deliberately gave Yun Yao to Ji Tianxing in exchange for Ji Tianxing's loyalty? After all, no matter how important a peerless beauty is to Long Yunxiao, how can it be compared to the country and the throne? Duanmu Huang thought for a moment and hurriedly nodded in agreement. That's right. Nephew Lingfeng's analysis is very reasonable. Although Long Yunxiao pretends to be gentle and kind, as the emperor, he's definitely someone who will do anything to achieve his goals. Using a peerless beauty in exchange for the loyalty and support of a peerless genius. Isn't this what many emperors have done? The High Lord slowly turned around and glanced at Murong Lingfeng and Duanmu Huang. He sneered mockingly, Haha, you're overestimating Long Yunxiao. If he really had such ruthless determination and courage, he would have strengthened his forces long ago. With his wings fully developed, he would have been able to compete with me directly. There's no need to investigate the entanglement between him, Ji Tianxing, and Yun Yao. They're going to die soon anyway. This time, my cultivation has improved a lot. I've reached the half-step soul refinement realm and am not far from breaking through. Once I break through to the soul refinement realm, there will be no place for Long Yunxiao in the imperial court. Duanmu Huang and Murong Lingfeng looked at each other and revealed a look of joy. They hurriedly cupped their hands and congratulated the High Lord. Congratulations to the High Lord for achieving great success. Congratulations to the High Lord for improving your cultivation. You'll become a transcendent soon. The High Lord nodded slightly and raised his hands, indicating that the two of them could dispense with the formalities. He stared at Duanmu Huang and said in a serious tone, "Family head Duanmu, Ji Tianxing destroyed the 3 herb gardens of the Duanmu family. The imperial court already knows about this. Although the imperial court hasn't said anything, Ji Tianxing's arrogance and unscrupulousness will definitely make the imperial court unhappy. You don't have to worry about Ji Tianxing's status as the imperial court's master and the imperial court's opinion. Find a suitable opportunity and kill Ji Tianxing with your own hands. Anyway, the matter has already blown up. You have enough reason to take revenge. Even if the imperial court is unhappy, they won't punish you too harshly." When Duanmu Huang heard his words, it was as if he had eaten a pill of reassurance. He hurriedly nodded and said, "Good. Don't worry, High Lord. With me personally taking action, that bastard Ji Tianxing will definitely die." The High Lord then looked at Murong Lingfeng and said in a dignified tone, "Lingfeng, the Duanmu family has suffered a great loss. Many people will definitely take this opportunity to take revenge. The Murong family and the Duanmu family are allies. At this time, we can't just stand by and watch. We must do our best to help." After listening to the High Lord's orders, Murong Lingfeng respectfully cupped his hands and said, "We will follow the High Lord's orders. Don't worry, High Lord. The Murong family knows what to do." The High Lord nodded with satisfaction. His eyes revealed a cold light and he sneered, "Since Long Yunxiao and Ji Tianxing are secretly colluding, then I'll kill Ji Tianxing first and then get rid of Long Yunxiao." Chapter 693. 5 days passed by quickly. Ji Tianxing had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret chamber for 5 days. His injuries and skills had completely recovered. Early in the morning, he ended his cultivation and walked out of the secret chamber. The guard guarding outside the secret chamber saw him come out and immediately reported respectfully, "Master, Miss Yun Yao came 2 days ago. She seemed to have something important to tell you. Miss Yun Yao said that after you came out of seclusion, she asked me to inform her immediately." Ji Tianxing immediately guessed the purpose of Yun Yao's visit. It was most likely because of the destruction of the Duanmu family's herb garden. He waved his hand at the guard and said calmly, "No need to inform her. I'll go and find her myself." Then, he left Tianxing Palace and rushed to Yun Yao Palace as fast as lightning. An hour later, Ji Tianxing arrived at the gate of Yun Yao Palace. The guard at the gate recognized him and quickly opened the gate to welcome him into Yun Yao Palace. Ji Tianxing was led by the guard to Yun Yao's study. He sat down and drank tea while waiting. Not long after, Yun Yao heard the news and rushed over. As soon as she entered the study, she stared at Ji Tianxing and sized him up. "Tianxing, are you okay? Are you hurt?" Yun Yao came in front of him and asked with concern. Ji Tianxing reached out and held her hands. He shook his head with a smile and said, "Yao Yao, don't worry. I'm fine now." Yun Yao glared at him and said with some displeasure, "I was worried when you went to the mango forest alone. After you finished your task, you didn't even tell me and went into seclusion to cultivate. I was worried for a few days." Ji Tianxing quickly apologized with a smile and explained, "The Firebird Heavenly Wind was more difficult to deal with than I expected. Although I succeeded in destroying 3 herb gardens, I was also injured." Yun Yao didn't really blame him. She was just worried that something bad had happened to him. The two of them hugged each other intimately for a while before sitting down to talk business. Ji Tianxing looked at Yun Yao and asked, "Yao Yao, the Duanmu family's 3 herb gardens have been destroyed. They must have suffered a great loss. How is the situation outside?" The corners of Yun Yao's mouth curled up into a sneer as she quickly said, "The Duanmu family is now in a precarious situation, both internally and externally, and has become a broken ship. 80% of the Duanmu clan's pill workshops and shops had been shut down. Only a few dozen businesses were left, and they were still struggling at death's door. Many forces that were on good terms with the Duanmu family all parted ways with the Duanmu family, each seeking their own way out. Those powers that had enmity with the Duanmu clan were beating them while they were down, and they used all sorts of methods to deal with the Duanmu clan and seize and divide up the Duanmu clan's businesses. The Duanmu family has suffered a heavy blow this time, and they won't be able to recover for at least 10 years, much less threaten the Yun family." Hearing her mention the Yun family, Ji Tianxing quickly asked, "Oh right, what was the Yun family's reaction after the Duanmu family got into trouble?" Yun Yao said with a gratified expression, "The Yun family and the Duanmu family have been fighting for many years, and they have always been at a disadvantage. Their situation is getting more and more difficult. Now that the Duanmu family is in trouble, the Yun family's pressure is greatly reduced, and they can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Moreover, the Yun family also secretly added fuel to the fire and added fuel to the fire. They hit the Duanmu family while they were down, causing the Duanmu family's losses to increase rapidly. Oh right, my father was very shocked when he heard the news, and he was full of praises for you." Ji Tianxing smiled and said in a playful tone, "What did uncle say? And how did he praise his future son-in-law?" Yun Yao's heartbeat quickened slightly, and she was a little embarrassed, but she said without changing her expression, "My father said that he was right about you. You are indeed the #1 prodigy of the human race. My father said that you are brave and resourceful, and that you can do what others can't. You did what he always wanted to do but couldn't, and you helped him vent his anger. Moreover, you were able to successfully destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden, which means that you and my father's cooperation plan is half completed. This is a great contribution. My father praised you greatly, but he also asked me to tell you that you have to be more careful in the future to prevent the Duanmu family's crazy revenge." "Okay, I know what to do." Ji Tianxing nodded. Yun Yao continued, "Oh right, my mother was very satisfied with your performance after she found out about this. She even praised you." "There's such a thing?" Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Mother-in-law is finally willing to take a proper look at this hairy son-in-law of mine?" Yun Yao didn't say anything, and she looked at him from the corner of her eyes with a strange expression. Ji Tianxing didn't dare to look her in the eyes, and could only smile embarrassedly. Cough cough. "Yao Yao, let's talk about business." Yun Yao then retracted her sharp gaze and said seriously, "Tianxing, my mother asked me to tell you something." "What is it?" Ji Tianxing looked at her in confusion. Yun Yao said calmly, "My mother said that if you are free next month, you can go to Cloud Soul Palace and stay for a few days." Ji Tianxing frowned slightly, and was even more confused. Why would she suddenly invite me to Cloud Soul Palace for no reason? Yun Yao explained, "I told you before that my grandfather is the famous miracle Dr. Bailey in the Central State. My mother's medical skills were passed down from my grandfather. Ever since my mother married into Cloud Soul Palace, my grandfather mysteriously disappeared, and there has been no trace of him for over 20 years, and there has been no news of him. 10 days ago, Cloud Soul Palace received news that my grandfather was about to return from the great swamp of the southern wilderness, and was about to return to the Central State. At the end of next month, it will be my grandfather's 300th birthday, and Cloud Soul Palace will be holding a birthday banquet for my grandfather, inviting all the famous forces in the Central State. My mother hopes that you can go and meet my grandfather when the time comes." Ji Tianxing finally understood Bailey Ningsu's meaning. He nodded and said seriously, Since it's your grandfather's 300th birthday, then I should go. However, all the famous forces in the Central State will be there. If I go, Isn't the Yun family afraid of people suspecting that it was the Yun family that ordered me to destroy the Duan Mu family's herb garden? Yun Yao shook her head and said, "Don't worry about this. You are the heavenly stellar region lord, and one of the most respected people in the human race, so you should have received an invitation from Cloud Soul Palace. As long as the imperial court and the Duan Mu family don't have evidence that the Yun family is involved, they can't do anything to the Yun family." After pausing, she added, "Also, the Duan Mu family's herb business has collapsed, and a large portion of the market will be empty. My father wants to use this birthday banquet as an opportunity to pull in all the famous forces and steal the herb business in the central state continent, and suppress the Duan Mu family's power." When Ji Tianxing heard this, he smiled and nodded. "That's right. Uncle's move can be said to be taking drastic measures. It's both ruthless and accurate. Your grandfather is the world-famous miracle Dr. Bailey, and with his name and the Yun family's power, he will definitely be able to rally everyone." Chapter 694. Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao chatted for a long time before leaving. He didn't return to Tianxing Palace. He remembered the ice dragon hammer and rushed to Kuan Wu Palace. An hour later, he landed outside the gate of Kuan Wu Palace. The gatekeeper stopped him and asked about his identity and purpose. Then, he turned and entered Kuan Wu Palace to report the news. After a while, the gatekeeper returned and led Ji Tianxing into Kuan Wu Palace. He entered the guest hall and sat down to drink half a cup of tea before Kuan Wu heard the news and rushed over. As soon as Kuan Wu stepped into the hall, he looked at him with a complicated expression and said with a bitter smile, "Ji Tianxing, you are really AI." Halfway through his words, Kuan Wu stopped and could only sigh helplessly. When Ji Tianxing saw his reaction, he naturally understood why he sighed. However, he pretended not to understand and asked in confusion, "Your Highness Kuan Wu, what's wrong? What happened?" Kuan Wu saw that he was pretending to be confused and immediately said with anger and amusement, "Ji Tianxing, if I knew your purpose of borrowing the ice dragon hammer, I definitely wouldn't have lent it to you. You are simply too daring. I really can't believe that you actually took the ice dragon hammer and barged into the Mangu forest alone. You destroyed the 3 medicine gardens of the Duanmu family and even killed the heavenly wind fire bird. Now, the few great families and the imperial court all know that you did this with the ice dragon hammer. Our monster race is really a scapegoat for no reason." When he said the word scapegoat, Kuan Wu's face was full of depression. He looked at Ji Tianxing with a complicated expression. Ji Tianxing revealed an expression of sudden realization. He quickly cupped his hands and said to Kuan Wu, Your Highness Kuan Wu, I'm really sorry. I was careless. How about this? I will go to Central Continent City and spread the news to all the major forces that this matter has nothing to do with the monster race Imperial Court. It was done by me, Ji Tianxing." Kuan Wu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly waved his hand and said, "Stop it! Do you really want to drag me and the Imperial Court down with you? It's fine if you don't explain, it will only make things worse. Our monster race Imperial Court has never interfered in the affairs of the human race Imperial Court, let alone the grievances of the 3 great families. Now, the human Imperial Emperor had even sent a letter to the Demon Emperor 2 days ago to ask about the Ice Dragon Hammer. If it wasn't for the sake of my sister, I would definitely settle the score with you." Ji Tianxing saw that he was quite distressed, so he stopped joking and said seriously, "Your Highness Kuan Wu, I have my own difficulties in this matter, so I can't tell you the reason in advance. For you and His Majesty the Demon Emperor to lend me a helping hand and lend me the Ice Dragon Hammer, I am extremely grateful and will remember it in my heart. You don't have to blame this on Cuckoo. I, Ji Tianxing, owe your Imperial Court a favor. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely repay you double." 2. He took out the Ice Dragon Hammer from his spatial ring and handed it to Kuan Wu. Koan Wu was just a scapegoat for no reason and was slightly depressed. He didn't really blame Ji Tianxing. Koan Wu was slightly apologetic when he saw Ji Tianxing speak so solemnly. However, he had a typical demon's character. He was unruly and straightforward, so he couldn't say such sentimental words. He didn't say anything and took the ice dragon hammer and put it away solemnly. Ji Tianxing asked again, "Your Highness Koan Wu, how's Ku's situation?" Koan Wu's eyes became gentle when Ji Ku was mentioned, and he said with a smile, "Ku has been cultivating bitterly in the imperial court. With Imperial Father helping her refine the demon energy in her soul, her situation has become more and more stable. She's no longer troubled by that mysterious energy. Moreover, Ku's strength has advanced by leaps and bounds under the care of Imperial Father and Imperial Mother. She has already reached the 4th level of the Origin Core stage." So fast? Ji Tianxing was rather surprised and felt it was unbelievable. Koan Wu revealed a gratified smile and nodded. "It's indeed fast. Imperial Father and Imperial Mother both said that Ku's natural talent actually far surpasses mine. Imperial Father said that once the mysterious energy in Ku's soul is refined, she'll immediately reach the Heaven Origin stage. According to Imperial Father's estimation, it'll probably be completed within 3 to 5 months and completely solve Ku's predicament and hidden dangers." Ji Tianxing was even more shocked and asked in disbelief, "Ku will be able to reach the Heaven Origin stage within 3 to 5 months? That's too shocking." Koan Wu didn't feel the slightest bit envious or jealous that Ji Ku possessed such good fortune and fortune. He only felt gratified and proud in his heart. He glanced at Ji Tianxing and said with a playful smile, "Both of us have to cultivate diligently and increase our strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, Ku will be able to catch up to us within a year and even surpass us." Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded, "That's right." After that, the two of them chatted for a while more before Ji Tianxing bid farewell and left. After returning to Tianxing Palace, he entered the secret chamber to cultivate in seclusion. Anyway, he had nothing to do recently and it was not suitable for him to show his face in public. The Duanmu clan was severely damaged and the Central Plains was in turmoil. He was the culprit. Once he left the monarch mansion, he would definitely be besieged and hunted down by many powerhouses. Since that was the case, why should he go and cause more trouble? Staying in the monarch mansion to cultivate was the wisest choice. After entering the secret chamber, Ji Tianxing activated the Heavenly Soul Heavy Array. He used 25 times the gravity to refine his body and cultivate the ultimate sword body. He was now at Sky Origin Stage LV4. As long as he reached Sky Origin Stage LV6, he would be able to cultivate the ultimate sword body. With the ultimate sword body, he was not far from forming the sword heart. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing's heart was filled with anticipation. He just wanted to increase his strength as soon as possible. Time flew by like a shuttle. For the next half a month, Ji Tianxing had been cultivating in the secret chamber. He used the power of the Heavenly Soul Heavy Array to refine his sword body. He had to endure the inhuman torture and pain. He had to consume a large amount of spiritual stones and Dan beads every day. Luckily, he had accumulated enough cultivation resources. He would not run out in a short period of time. Half a month had passed without him noticing. After 15 days and nights of torture and cultivation, Ji Tianxing's body and true energy had been doubled. He had finally reached Sky Origin Stage LV5. After being tortured by the Heavenly Soul Heavy Array for half a month, he had reached the limit of his endurance. He had to stop cultivating and rest for a while. This morning, he finished his cultivation and walked out of the secret chamber. The guards at the door of the secret room were shocked when they saw him covered in blood. They thought that he was seriously injured. However, the guard clearly sensed that although Ji Tianxing was in a mess, his strength and qi were much stronger. Apparently, he had made a breakthrough in his cultivation. Ji Tianxing left the secret chamber. He went back to his room to take a bath and change into clean clothes. After getting rid of the blood on his body, he became spirited and dignified again. He rested in his room for half a day. At noon, he heard a familiar voice outside the door. Chapter 695. Hearing the tender voice outside the door, Ji Tianqing revealed a smile. Yen come in. As soon as he finished speaking, the door opened with a creak. Yen walked into the room and came in front of Ji Tianqing. He smiled and cupped his hands. Senior brother Tianqing. Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. He looked him up and down a few times. Seeing that he was wearing a white robe, his complexion was rosy and his breathing was very stable, he asked. Yen how are your injuries and cultivation recovering? Yen nodded and said, Senior brother Tianqing, I have been in seclusion for 20 days to heal my injuries. My injuries and cultivation have completely recovered. Senior brother Tianqing, have you borrowed the ice dragon hammer from the demon clan? Ji Tianqing was startled for a moment before he remembered that for the past half a month, Yen had been in seclusion in Tianqing Palace to heal his injuries and did not know what had happened outside. Thus, he told Yen about the process of borrowing the ice dragon hammer and the matter of him destroying the medicine garden. Yen listened carefully. When he learned that Ji Ku was the princess of the demon clan, he was surprised and shocked. At the same time, he was happy for Ji Ku. When he learned that Ji Tianqing had acted alone and successfully destroyed the 3 medicine gardens of the Duanmu family, he was excited and excited. Yen was excited for a long time before his emotions calmed down. He hurriedly warned Ji Tianqing to be careful of the Duanmu family's revenge. The two chatted for a while before Yen took his leave. For the next few days, the emperor's mansion was as calm as ever. No matter what happened in the outside world, no matter how much turmoil the Duanmu family and the other major forces caused, it did not affect Tianqing Palace in the slightest. For a full 4 days, Ji Tianqing had been circulating his energy to adjust his breathing and stabilize his martial arts realm. On the morning of the 5th day, Ji Tianqing was meditating in his room when a guard captain came to report the news. Reporting to Domain Lord, there is news from the Qingfeng courtyard that a middle-aged man who calls himself Prince Zhong Li wants to see young Master Yin. Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and revealed a puzzled expression. Who is Prince Zhong Li? Why does he want to see Yin? The guard captain quickly explained. According to the news from Qingfeng courtyard, Prince Zhong Li is from the fire race. Oh, I see. Ji Tianqing was enlightened as he thought to himself. Prince Zhong Li of the Fire Tribe must be a trusted aide of the Fire Emperor, right? I didn't expect that as soon as Yen sent the news back to the Fire Clan would send people to the Central Plains in just a month. Thinking of this, he waved his hand and signaled for the guard captain to leave. Then, he personally went to find Yen and told him about this matter. When Yen heard the news, he immediately showed an excited and joyful expression. Senior Martial Brother Tianqing, Prince Zhongli is my imperial father's younger brother, and also my 3rd imperial uncle. Among the princes of the fire race, 3rd uncle is the strongest, and he loves me the most. I didn't expect that imperial father would send 3rd uncle. Yen was happy for a while and did not forget to explain to Ji Tianqing, Senior Martial Brother Tianqing, when I wrote a letter to Imperial Father before, I asked him to send people to Qingfeng Courtyard in Fish Dragon Alley to find us. There's no other way, they can't enter the Imperial Mansion when they come to the Central Plains, so I can only let them go to Qingfeng Courtyard. Ji Tianqing understood the identity of Prince Zhongli, so he no longer delayed. He quickly left the Tianqing Palace with Yen and rushed to the exit of the Imperial Mansion. An hour later, the two left the Imperial Mansion and rushed to Qingfeng Courtyard in Fish Dragon Alley. After the two entered Qingfeng Courtyard, they went straight to the guest hall. He saw that there were 4 people talking in the main hall. The old man in a white robe sitting on the main seat was the Beast King, and the white ape stood respectfully beside him. On the chair on the left side of the hall, there was a middle-aged man in a fiery red robe and a fire jade crown on his head. This person was tall and sturdy, with a dignified appearance. He spoke with an extraordinary temperament and had a noble temperament. He was Prince Zhongli of the Fire Clan. Behind Prince Zhongli stood two middle-aged men with strong bodies like iron towers and a valiant and domineering aura. Although these two people were wearing ordinary green robes, their bodies were filled with an iron-blooded murderous aura. They were obviously war generals who had been on the battlefield for a long time. Prince Zhongli and the Beast King sat in the hall, drinking tea and waiting. Occasionally they would chat a little. When Ji Tianxing and Yen walked into the hall, the Beast King and Prince Zhongli immediately turned their heads to look. The Beast King raised his eyebrows and revealed a kind smile. He greeted them. "Tianxing, Yen, you're finally here." Prince Zhongli hurriedly stood up. His face was kind as he looked at Yen with concern. "Yen, I haven't seen you for many years. You've finally grown taller." Yen hurriedly went up and bowed to Prince Zhongli. "Yen greets the third imperial uncle." After saying that, he pointed to Ji Tianxing beside him and introduced him to Prince Zhongli. "Third imperial uncle, this is the senior brother Tianxing I mentioned in the letter, the region lord of Tianjin region." Prince Zhongli revealed a kind smile to Ji Tianxing and bowed. "Greetings to the region lord." Ji Tianxing also smiled and bowed back. Then, he greeted the Beast King. Everyone exchanged greetings with each other for a while. Then, the Beast King tactfully took his leave and left the hall. "Yen Prince Zhongli, you have something to discuss. This old man will not disturb you." After the Beast King left with White Ape, only Prince Zhongli and two followers, Yen and Ji Tianxing, were left in the hall. Everyone took their seat. Prince Zhongli and Yen began to talk about business. Ji Tianxing sat aside and listened silently. He learned a lot of information from the conversation between the two. Prince Zhongli was the mainstay of the Fire Tribe. He was the most trusted person of the Fire Emperor. He had the strength of the fourth level of the Sky Origin stage. The two followers behind him were actually the elite fire generals of the Fire Tribe. They were both fierce generals with great achievements. They had the strength of the second level of the Sky Origin stage. When Yen-Er's letter was sent back to the Fire Tribe, the Fire Emperor ordered Prince Zhongli to take people to Zhongzhou to investigate the matter of Yen-Er being captured. Prince Zhongli was worried about Yen-Er's safety, so he rushed day and night to Zhongzhou City as soon as possible. When talking about this matter, Yen-Er asked Prince Zhongli with doubts, "Third Imperial Uncle, who is that old lunatic who lost an arm and a leg? Did he betray our Fire Tribe, so he was tortured by cutting his flesh and blood?" Prince Zhongli nodded with a solemn face and said in a heavy tone, "Yen-Er, the old lunatic who captured you is called Huo Yen. 30 years ago, he was the high priest of our Fire Tribe. He had a high status. However, he committed an unforgivable crime, so he was severely punished by the Fire Emperor." Hearing this, Yen-Er showed a surprised expression and said in disbelief, "Huo Yen? He was the high priest of our Fire Tribe?" Ji Tianxing also showed a look of interest and asked Prince Zhongli, "Prince Zhongli, can you tell us what happened back then?"